carriers to compare options. What if I told you it can take just one call? If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, you qualify for a special enrollment period. By calling the number on your screen, you can compare rates and plans from multiple carriers. No more dialing around, no more headaches. It's fast, it's easy, and it's all done for you by a licensed insurance agent. You could get the coverage you want at a rate that fits your budget. It won't take more than a few minutes of your day, saving time, and it may save you money.
I just became eligible for Medicare, so I called to find a plan that fits my budget.
Don't waste time. Call the Benefits Network to speak to a licensed insurance agent about Medicare Advantage plans and compare rates from national carriers. One call to compare options from multiple carriers.
For free no-obligation consultation, call 800-819-1582.
Hi, folks. We're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Humana Medicare Advantage plans. Carry this card, and you could have the power to unlock benefits beyond original Medicare. These are convenient plans that offer all of the benefits of original Medicare, plus extra coverage and benefits. With a Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage in one convenient plan, with $0 copays on hundreds of prescriptions. Most plans include routine dental, vision, even hearing benefits. There's also a cap on your out-of-pocket medical expenses. That's more than you get with original Medicare, and Humana offers $0 or low monthly plan premiums. So call now to see if there's a plan in your area that could give you extra coverage and benefits. A knowledgeable, licensed Humana sales agent will explain your coverage options, even help you enroll over the phone. Call today and we'll also send this free guide. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
You know, Krisha, you know my father was a preacher, right?
I do.
And he always said, don't talk about anyone else's house if your own house is dirty. So why is New York pointing their fingers at, Texas for trying to redistrict? When New York, clearly, the leaders here cannot govern. Look at the shape that New York is in.
Right, and they're part of the problem. They're the reason people are moving to Texas and that they need the redistricting, John. And it's not just New York. Gavin Newsom is also getting involved in California, piping into this story, as well as J.B. Pritzker housing the state rep.
Watch In Touch with Dr. Charles Stanley, Sundays at 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. on the Dove TV, encouraging and informative.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove, better known, let's make a deal right here.
Okay, I'll take door number 2.
All right, door number 2. All right, good morning to you. And he's Jerry Bilden, he's behind door number 3.
Good morning.
If you pick that door, you're in for a real ride.
It goes, if you pick that door, it opens up, it goes, sorry.
All right. Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove. There's a lot going on. There always is. Temperatures nice, but starting to slowly warm up as we look towards the end of the week and into the weekend. So 'tis the season. I mean, hey, August,
It is.
It's supposed to be warm in August.
Right.
So, otherwise, pretty nice out there this morning.
Yeah.
Pretty nice out there. Actually, a little cool last night, which was really good.
It was, yeah. In fact, our AC didn't even turn on yesterday.
There you go.
How about that? This
All
is pretty
right.
nice.
All right, well, you saved $1.29.
An hour.
Yeah. All right, good morning to you. What's going on? What do you got?
Well, today, first of all, it is National Work Like a Dog Day.
Well, that would be a switch.
Okay, guys, take a lap. Okay, sorry. And it's interesting, too, because there are 2 common idioms that we use in our everyday lives. It's a dog's life and work like a dog. And they're like opposite ends of the spectrum, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the difference is that there really are working dogs out there. Ranch dogs, farm dogs, military police work. And when they work, they are tireless in their work.
Yeah.
They just do it. And then all the others, They're just pets. They
Yeah.
can sleep all day if they want.
Dog life is
It's
the
a
dog
dog's
life.
life. Yeah, so both of them are true.
Yeah.
So today it's your day to work like a dog.
All right.
It's also National Night Out Day.
Oh.
And this promotes police community partnerships in neighborhoods across the country. And of course, we want those partnerships with our law enforcement. And in fact, I think it's a good idea, especially Jackson County Sheriff's Department. All those guys, they take their cars home and they park them in the driveway.
I noticed that.
Isn't
I
that
think,
cool?
I think Central Point does too.
They may,
Because
yes.
when I drive in, I see them backed into driveways.
Right.
And if there's anything that's going to slow you down,
Absolutely.
is when you see the magnetic sign that says police.
Police, yes. Reflecting back.
Yeah.
At you. Yes, absolutely. So we'll celebrate that one's also. It's National Undies Day. It's National Underwear Day.
Well, that's nice. Either
And
wear
of
'em or
course-
change them.
And I think a lot of kids through their life have heard their mother's warning, make sure to always wear clean underwear, because you never know when you'll be in an accident. And I'm trying to figure that one out. But did you know that there are variations of that saying that are repeated in many different countries around the world? I don't know how Mom's got that started.
I don't know either.
But anyway, enjoy.
So, rhetorical question, don't answer it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
Boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
Yeah, well, there you
it's a thing.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Okay, moving on. National Oyster Day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oysters, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, that's right. Now, there are over 100 different species of oysters, and they can take on the characteristics of the water in which they live. Because of this, they're typically named after the body of water in which they grow. And Chesapeake Bay oysters are the most plentiful because the Chesapeake Bay produces more oysters in the world than any other body of water. And only 1 out of every 10,000 oysters will produce a pearl.
Okay. Only 1 out of 10,000?
Only 1 out of 10,000. And so that's what we have to eat today, so I added something of my own.
What? Hot sauce?
Because what? You know, hot sauce on oysters, that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. For the love of ice cream. You know, we love ice cream, and, you know, it comes in many different flavors, but there are some folks who have really loved ice cream. For example, during World War II, the U.S. Navy converted a barge into a floating ice cream factory that could produce 10 gallons of ice cream every 7 seconds.
You're kidding.
And hold up to 2,000 gallons of ice cream. And not only that, check out this. Commander J. Hunter Reinberg converted a plane to hold canned milk and cocoa in World War II. He then flew to an altitude where the temperature dropped below freezing, making ice cream for his troops that were stationed on Peleliu, which is in the Pacific, not far from the Philippines. Wow. He flew up into. Now, you know that the guys that followed these leaders, they followed them all the way.
Well, I guess
these
so.
guys made ice cream for us.
Wow.
So anyway, that is for the love of ice cream. So pick your flavor and enjoy.
Ice cream. You got to have ice cream. Oysters, rah, rah, rah. So I have a question for you.
What?
Does anybody really know, you know, and I mean seriously know, are there any health benefits to eating oysters?
That's a really great question.
Because I know they're a delicacy.
Yeah.
People love them. But they're bottom feeders.
Well, you know,
and I think if you read the book of Leviticus,
what do we?
This may not qualify.
Yeah, well, crabs, lobsters.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But oysters are on the bottom.
They truly are. Yes.
So
that's a good question.
Are they high in something that we shouldn't have, like mercury?
You know, I think that's something you have to really look at in all seafood these days. You know, where are they from? Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. I think the bottom line, it should be a message to us. Let's clean it all up so it doesn't matter where they come from.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
That's why now these people that do these oyster shooters.
Oyster shooter, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. God bless them. Because Or you put them on a grill and they pop open.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, yeah.
But oysters Rockefeller, I think, are the safest ones to eat because you bake them and you cook them really good.
Right, instead of raw?
And you put some cheese and bacon bits on them,
Yeah, right.
and then a little Tabasco sauce.
Oh, bring it on.
But what's good about an oyster Rockefeller, you at least get 2 chews. On the other ones, it's lucky to get one. They just slip right on
They
down.
slide right on down.
Yeah.
Go on the half
All right,
shell.
speaking of
All
somebody
right.
slippery, here he is right here.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Below normal temperatures continue at the top of our region, so today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, partly sunny with a high near 79 in Vancouver, mostly sunny in low to mid 80s for Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Mostly sunny skies continue as we move down the Willamette Valley with daytime high temperatures in the low to mid 80s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene with a west-northwest wind around 6 miles per hour this afternoon. Sunny again today across the central Oregon high desert with daytime highs in the low to mid 80s for Prineville and Bend and near 78 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 90. A nice day along the coast. In Coos Bay, mostly sunny and near 71. Sunny in Port Orford with a high near 69 and near 57 in Brookings. In Crescent City, California, partly sunny with a high near 63. In southern Oregon, sunny for the Rogue Valley with daytime highs near 90 in Grants Pass and mid to upper 80s for Medford and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with daytime highs near 83. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the mid-80s for Wairika. Sunny in Redding with the highest temperature on our map for the day at 96. Sunshine in Chico with a high near 93 and Sacramento near 92. Sunny and calm today across the Bay Area with daytime high temperatures in the low 80s for Santa Rosa and Napa and upper 60s in San Francisco with a light southwest wind. And today in San Jose, sunny with a high near 80. A snapshot of your Tuesday weather from Grange Co-op.
All right, and there's a picture from the top of Mount Ashland. Roy, at the very top.
Boy, that
on
is
top of the broadcast building up there.
7,500 feet tall right there.
There you go, and that's looking towards the valley.
Uh-huh.
A little bit of a, I don't know what that line is. Is that marine air or smoke?
That's a great question.
A little zip of there.
We might need a different angle to check it out.
Yeah, we'll catch that in a minute. That camera has a tendency to be very nervous. It moves a lot.
But either way, even if it's a little smoke, we don't have anything like what's going on in the East Coast right now.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, they're having all kinds of air. In fact, Detroit, yesterday, I think they were the 3rd most polluted city in the world.
Yeah.
And that was just from some of the smoke from wildfires in Canada.
Oh, wow.
So that's what's going on the East Coast. It's blowing down. You know how the wind shifts. But anyway. Well, sometimes we question why we do the things that we do. In fact, some of the heroes of our faith have done the same. The Apostle Paul did that. But here, Pastor Greg Laurie uses a great illustration, Cain and Abel, to look at this very problem.
Cain and Abel were both raised in the same home. They both saw the same things, but one walked with God and one did not walk with God. One was a true worshiper and the other was not a true worshiper. One was accepted, the other rejected. And this reminds us there's a right and wrong way to approach God. And it comes down to this, the why or the motive. Because as far as God is concerned, motive is everything. One day, we as Christians will stand before the judgment seat of Christ. This is not a judgment about whether or not you get to heaven. In fact, it's a judgment in heaven where rewards are given out for faithful service. And the Bible says God will test every man's work to see what sort it is. In other words, the why of what you did. So you think, well, if I have a beautiful voice and in worship I sing louder than everyone, that will be pleasing to God. Maybe and maybe not. Because if your heart's in the wrong place, it's not pleasing to God at all. And that person that's always off pitch may be more pleasing to the Lord than the person with the beautiful voice. Or when we receive an offering and one person gives a lot of money and another person doesn't give as much, God will be impressed by the motive of why the person did what they did. God looks on the heart.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. All right, good morning to you. 11 minutes past the hour. Let's take a look at some of the big stories of the day. Of course, the big one was pretty much captivated by all the action in Texas, where the Texas Democrats there in the House got up and left town. Now, they've done this before, so they all walk out, they hop on an airplane, and they fly away.
Yes, and the irony of all ironies is they go to one of the most gerrymandered states in the United States, and that is Illinois. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah, this is all about, the term is called gerrymandering, but basically what it is, redistricting, where the lines are drawn in a state as to, the areas of being representative. So I have to say, folks, that the irony of this, if not the hypocrisy of this, is that every time the D's are in control, they always draw the line in their favors.
Absolutely.
Now that the Republicans are in control, they're drawing the lines in their favor.
Right.
And they are just absolutely crazy. Now, they've done this before. So here's what's happened. They've left the state. Now, in the state of Texas, I did a little search on this. Don't have it totally clear, but some clear. They're out of the state. The governor has called a special session. They left because primarily the function of the special session, there's 4 things on the agenda, but the big one, the most controversial one, was the redistricting. So now they have abandoned their position. So Governor Abbott has issued an arrest warrant.
Right.
Now, what's interesting about this is he can't arrest him outside the state.
Right.
But the moment they come back in the state, if they come back in while the special session is still in session, if they come back into the state after the special session ends, they can't be arrested.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh.
So what's he do? He calls another special session. So here's the bottom line. The Democrats are this is all showmanship. They will lose this. They don't have the votes. It's as bad as when the Republicans in Oregon left over a bill.
Great point.
You just don't have the votes to
point.
Okay.
Yep.
Secondly, they're being fined $500 a day.
Oh, are they? I didn't know that part. Okay.
At what point is the breaking point?
Yeah.
So here's Governor Abbott talking about it.
Texas is doing what we are allowed to by the law. And one reason why that law exists the way that it does is because the Democrats brought a lawsuit after our last redistricting, and that decision and that lawsuit came out last year. And that lawsuit recognized that coalition districts are not required. And so Texas has a right to redraw these lines to fully represent the desires of every voter in the state. But Sean, that misses the point here. The point here is that Democrats have done something that's very un-Texan. They've turned their backs on their fellow Texans. When it came to a fight, they turned and ran away, not just from this redistricting fight, they ran away from dealing with the flooding issues that are still echoing across the Kerrville area. Families desperately need results from the state legislature in this 30-day special session that are not going to be delivered because Democrats are hanging out in Chicago and New York and other places.
So there's other issues on this agenda. So this is so, and it's so hypocritical because they do the same thing. So in the meantime, what is the legalities of all of this? Well, Jonathan Turley, he's a former law professor. Here's what he had to say.
Well, Democrats have used this tactic in the past. Actually, it was not successful the last time. And it's the sort of legislative equivalent of a child holding his breath until his parents yield to his demands. You're more likely to pass out than prevail. And that is the same as in this circumstance. The governor can call more special sessions. So it's unlikely the Democrats are going to be able to keep this up long enough. They're trying to run out the clock. Now, what the governor is referring to is itself a difficult process. One of the things that he has suggested is that the Attorney General of Texas can argue that these legislators have abandoned their office. Now, to do that, you've got to go to court, and the judge has to say, yeah, this office is now vacant because of their actions. That's a really tough argument to make, but it is possible, but it takes time. That's what the Democrats are hoping for. They need 100 of 150 members to make a quorum. That's why roughly 50 have fled to these Democratic strongholds. Now, when he refers to bribery, he's saying, look, we're going to hit you with very high fines, and you cannot get other people to pay those fines, and you can't accept money during this flight, and I'm going to argue that that is bribery. Once again, that takes a lot of time. So this is a standoff that ultimately the governor is likely to win, but there's no good options here for either side, in my view.
Okay, so the question, there's a lot here. It's really bad. And the other part of it is that who paid for the plane? If somebody else paid for the plane and they didn't individually volunteer or put their own money into the plane, that's bribery.
Oh,
so this thing gets real messy real fast.
Well, speaking of messy fast, of course, the governor of California has weighed into this. Governor Newsom has said he vows to fight fire with fire if Texas lawmakers pass legislation regarding redistricting. Now, a couple things on this are really rich. First of all, this from a state that already has a supermajority. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And you brought up the Oregon legislature leaving, you know, the Republicans leaving during a bill that was being fought over. Did you hear any other governors in any other states anywhere, including Governor Gavin Newsom, standing in support of those legislators who abdicated and left? And by the way, paid the price, didn't they?
They did, because in Oregon law, if you're out unexcused, you lose your right to run for office again.
And they did.
And they did. And this was a huge turnover. And the only thing I can say is, folks, this is raw politics. You can jump up and down, scream and holler, this is raw politics. Governor Newsom, sticking his nose in Texas, is saying to the United States, I'm running for president.
Bingo.
Cory Booker is doing the same thing by doing all-night stance on the Senate floor. So these are people lining up for 28. And the problem with Governor Newsom, he's got nothing to stand on. Look at his own state. It's a wreck.
Absolutely.
So the governor in Texas, Abbott, wins this, and the Republicans win the redistricting. Look at the state of Oregon, if you don't know what redistricting is all about, and look how they've cut up the state of Oregon.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, it's obvious. And when the D's are in control, they do it, but they're whining. They're just, these are crybabies because they're being treated the way they've treated others.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the other story that has broken that's really interesting, there's a new book out that pretty much exposes the reality that the Biden administration's White House orchestrated lawfare against President Trump during the 2024 election. This is the next breaking story. Now, we have Russiagate out there that's now going to a grand jury, and I'll talk about that in a second. But this is another thing where Biden's administration, by the way, and who was running the Biden administration.
Exactly.
Okay. But all of the lawfare that went against President Trump during the re-election process or during the election cycle apparently was orchestrated out of the White House. So we have two former presidents, President Obama, President Biden, doing everything they can to take this guy out. And he still wins. So we'll see where this goes. But the book was released. It's hotter than a firecracker. And it's now putting more pressure on the DOJ to get involved in this one. Speaking of which, the DOJ yesterday did announce a grand jury probe into the origins of the so-called Trump-Russia collusion narrative. This is going to be interesting. This goes to a grand jury. Now, how is the grand jury put together?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And where is it put together? Is this going to be in D.C. or is it going to be in another district court?
That's a big question, too,
Okay, but a grand jury apparently is going to be put together to hear the basics of the so-called Russia collusion narrative now that is broke, that there's evidence that it was colluded by President Obama, that it was, some people call it the coup of the century, if the coup of the American's lifetime. And so this is going to go to a grand jury, and out of the grand jury comes the recommendation of whether or not there should be criminal charges. This has taken another step and a huge escalation into the problem. And the names are pretty obvious. You have Hillary Clinton, you got Brennan, you got Clapper, you've got Comey. The list goes down. I understand that even Schiff's on the list.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
For perjury.
Okay. Well, yeah, it should be.
Okay. So anyway, those are the breaking stories. And then the last thing we have here is the Israel's government today will determine whether or not and is likely to approve a plan to re-enter and occupy Gaza totally.
And all of Gaza.
I want you to look at this picture. Okay, well, these are pictures of aids being floated into Gaza for the Palestinians.
Right.
But since those videos were released of the hostages being basically starved to death and told to dig their own grave, it pretty much sent Israel's government and even the citizenry to say, all right, that's enough.
Yeah.
So the military is not really hot on this idea, but apparently the administration is, and so they're trying to work out some things where they're going to go in and take full occupancy of Gaza. We'll see. And now how they do this, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the game plan is, but they want to get the food into the Gazans and or into the Palestinians, I should say.
And they're doing airdrops. They are going around the relief mechanisms that are set up because those things are corrupt. Obviously, the food's getting stolen.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, but the next time you see Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, look carefully at him.
Why?
He is absolutely worn out.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
He's lost a lot of weight. You can tell he's not getting much sleep. This has gone on 2 years.
Have you heard? I mean, he's had some health issues, too.
And he's had a few health issues. Yeah. It's kind of like they don't want to reelect him, but they don't want to replace him.
Sounds very Churchillian.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
So here he goes. But anyway, those are the top stories on your Tuesday morning as we take a raw break.
Let's do ice cream.
Oh, ice cream.
Big ideas grow.
Finding that next great series to binge watch is fun, but your neck, shoulders, and body don't count that as me time. Hi, I'm Tamara Miller, owner of Organic Element Spa, and I invite you to put down the remote, get off the couch, and schedule yourself some real me or we time with your favorite service, like one of our many massages, couples massages, or facials. Your health, safety, and comfort are always top priority with us at Organic Element Spa. We can't wait to see you. Book your appointment today.
Go where the wild runs deep. At Hellgate Jet Boat Excursions, you feel the power of the mighty Rogue River as you take in the sights and sounds of nature, journey through Hellgate Canyon, and adventure through the breathtaking wilderness. Enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, and end your adventure with our exciting jet boat spins. It's a memory in the making with family and friends. Book your adventure at Hellgate.com. Hellgate Jet Boat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
Hey, it's your old car here. Remember me? Remember us? You barely even turn me on anymore. It's clear you don't need me, but that's perfectly fine, my friend, because you can choose to give this old car new purpose and donate. There are incredible nonprofits out there that accept cars just like me. So call or donate online. Donating a vehicle is easy, the pickup is free, and your gift is tax deductible.
Hi, good morning to you. 25 minutes past the hour. Just a little bit of backyard news. Our governor, Governor Tina Kotek, weighs in whether she's going to, this is kind of interesting, whether or not she's going to veto funds for the Willamette Falls.
What?
But they wanted to do a walkway there. Now, this is a beautiful area.
Yeah, it is.
And some tribal governments are urging Governor Tina Kotek to support their efforts to restore public access to the Willamette Falls after the governor announced she is considering vetoing the $45 million project. Okay. Now, part of this is a struggle. Do we return it to its beauty and keep people away from it and its fishery, or do we go ahead? And the announcement came amid the ongoing conflict among regional tribes over both the project and the fishing access to the Willamette Falls. So she's thinking about not giving them the money, which is kind of an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in addition to this, there's another little bit of twist, and that is former Governor Kate Brown was named executive director of the Willamette Falls Trust Fund last year. So she could be vetoing something that her predecessor is in charge of.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know where this is going to go. Do we want this or not want this?
I don't know. What's the beef?
$45 million. Well, I think it's budget issues more than anything. Now, she's probably getting a lot of pressure from naturalists to leave things the way they are and keep people away and let the fish be fish and the falls be the falls. And yet the former governor, Brown, is the Willamette executive director of the Willamette Falls Trust last year, and she was named that as last year, and she is saying, well, I don't know, maybe we need this. And there's now once-in-a-century moment to restore the natural beauty of the site and open its spiritual, cultural, and educational resources to the future generations. So a little bit of an argument. Do we leave it alone, or do we add some human element to it?
That is interesting. Well, it has a pretty interesting history because Portland was the first electrified city, and it was done through hydroelectricity generated through Willamette Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very historic spot. So I'm curious to see which way this one goes.
Yeah. By the way, there was a governor ranking over the weekend.
Oh.
And I'll say what the results of, but I got to double check to see who did this because there's conflicting reports who did this.
Oh.
But of the 50 governors out there, have any idea where Tina Kotek ranks?
Not a clue.
50 governors.
Okay.
So we have 50 states.
Okay.
Last I looked.
Somewhere in the middle?
Well, I don't know, unless Canada became one overnight, and I didn't.
Well, it could happen. Yeah.
She ranked 50.
No way. All right. Whoa.
Yeah, and
whoa.
I'm going, okay,
Whoa.
What's this mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know what it means. But there's already T-shirts out. My governor's number 50. I'm going, oh no, do we really want this?
Well, she's got no place to go but up.
Well, it's kind of like our educational system.
Oh, yes.
Kind of like our abortion restrictions.
Oh, you know what?
We're at the bottom of education, and we're at the bottom of abortion, and now...
All these things go together, don't they?
I don't think
they really do.
Yeah. Oh, well, anyway, let's take a look at the satellite image. Here's what's going on there.
Oh.
According to Mr. Slippery, what is that?
I don't know. It's a whole bunch of clear out there.
Yeah.
And some decent weather in front of us, but it's going to warm up again by the weekend. But I don't know. My app is out. I don't know if we have internet or not here, so I'm just guessing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Well, this is interesting. Here's something I'm not really aware of, so I'm interested in what he has to say here. As Representative Rich McCormick from Georgia joined Fox Business's Stuart Varney and weighs in as China is limiting public employees' travel.
This is what communist countries do. This is what theocracies do. When you're afraid of outside ideas, you close off. I have good friends of mine that were smuggled out of then Russia and USSR in the bottom of a watermelon truck because they were trying to keep people in that bad. You remember the Great Wall of Berlin and how when you have a bad country, people are going to try to get out. And I think this is just a sign of paranoia for Xi Jinping. If you recall, they have about 250,000 students just in the United States alone. And they're bringing a lot of information back to China, but to have him start to close that down and put a stranglehold on people going abroad shows you that he has a bad country with bad things in store for their people. Anybody who becomes paranoid starts eliminating their enemies, and he's locked up a lot of people over the years. Probably hundreds of thousands of people, anybody who rebels against the government or even speaks against the government. People have disappeared off the streets. They use slave labor in the western portion of China. The nefarious thing they do to their own people, let alone countries abroad, is just outrageous. He's got to be a little paranoid, though, because his economy is on a precipice of crumbling. If you look at his declining population and the housing market, they have some big problems they're going to have to face, and that's going to put him on precarious footing.
Got the same problem, Russia, Brazil, Iran, and China, and North Korea. all of their economies are right on the edge.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's interesting. You remember the big, the Democrats were pushing the big global reset?
Yeah.
Remember that big term?
Yeah.
Well, guess what it was?
What?
It was COVID.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point. Sure.
Now, so that goes back. You got to trace it back. Was that deliberate, intentional?
And where did it come from?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but it did reset everything.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the backfire of COVID, you know what it was? Yeah, a lot of problems. But the backfire of COVID was nobody trusted it.
Yeah.
And out of that now, nobody trusts the government.
Right.
Nobody trusts anything or anybody.
Yes. Yes.
So
yeah.
their attempt to take control blew up in their face because we don't trust you anymore.
Right. Well, yes. And especially when we saw the truth start to leak out.
Yeah.
And the data was massaged. The leaders were corrupt, Fauci, namely.
Yeah.
And there was money being made on the backs of scared, innocent Americans and people around the world. They sold fear.
Yeah.
And we bought it.
We bought it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, listen, there's a conspiracy out that today is ice cream day. So we're going to investigate that. We'll be right back.
And we will dance among the ruins. We will see it with our own eyes. Out of this darkness, new light will shine.
Since 1987, Four Seasons Nursery has been the gold standard in the green industry here in Southern Oregon. Tim Elbert and his friendly staff continue to offer the best plants and most accurate knowledge to create your dream landscape. At Four Seasons Nursery on Crater Lake Avenue, you can let your imagination run wild with a huge selection of all things plant and gardening for both inside and outside beautification. Whether it's a flower for your windowsill, one of our beautifully renowned signature hanging baskets, or a complete landscape design for your entire property, Four Seasons Nursery can help you every step of the way with design services, workshops, and more. Let your imagination run wild as you immerse yourself in their nursery filled with beauty that knows no bounds. Four Seasons Nursery, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 1/2 mile north of Vilas Road, 541-779-5603, 541-779-5603. Applegate River Golf and RV Resort, a pristine 9-hole course alongside the Applegate River. Their clubhouse offers a golf simulator experience. The RV resort is adjacent to the golf course with convenient pull-through parking. Applegate River Golf and RV Resort. Information at applegateRV.com. Black Flag Armory offers top brand affordable rifles, shotguns, handguns, and gear. We also offer an array of classes emphasizing safety, self-defense, and accuracy. We strive to provide the absolute best possible experience when buying a firearm. Family friendly for every skill level, Black Flag Armory in Medford and Grants Pass. Online at blackflagarms.com or 541-499-0779. 541-499-0779.
Since 1983, over 21,000 interviews. It's quite a feat by one person. The Dove's Perry Atkinson. Tap into his experience and knowledge right here, only on the Dove TV.
All right, good morning to you. 26 minutes before the hour, we mentioned earlier, one of the top stories is that it looks like Israel's meeting today with all the cabinet members and everything. Will they step back into Gaza and completely take it over? What does that mean? Let's check in with CBN Newswatch and find out.
This is CBN Newswatch.
It's Tuesday, the 5th of August, going to begin this half hour in Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly decided to take over all of the Gaza Strip. As Chris Mitchell now reports from Jerusalem, the decision means the Israeli Defense Forces would enter areas where Israel believes many of the remaining hostages are located.
Monday, Netanyahu announced he will convene his cabinet to give instruction to defeat Hamas and free the hostages.
We must continue to stand together and fight together to achieve the war goals we have set, all of them. The defeat of the enemy, the release of our hostages, and the assurance that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel. Later this week, I will convene the cabinet to instruct the IDF on how to achieve these three goals, all of them, without exception.
Those three goals come in the midst of a battle between the U.S., Israel, and Hamas over who controls getting food to the people of Gaza. Friday, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee accompanied Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to visit the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to report on the U.S.-Israeli-backed effort that's provided more than 100 million meals to hungry Gazans in the past 2 months.
The most important thing I saw was the efficiency of the GHF operation, which, by the way, Hamas hates. They said it was their second most important thing to get rid of if they're going to have a deal to let the hostages go. What does that tell you? It's working. And the people of Gaza actually get the food for free, and Hamas can't steal it.
Huckabee also talked to some of the people at the distribution site.
They don't want Hamas there anymore. They're sick of them. But they're also have no mood to have the PLO or Fatah or one of the other Palestinian organizations run Gaza in the future. So I think it's moving in the right direction. It's interesting that most of the Gulf states now recognize that, say that Hamas must disarm, let all the hostages go. Maybe we need to get that message to France, the UK, Canada, and Ireland.
All of those countries are calling for the establishment of a Palestinian state.
What I'd say to them is, you've given Hamas a wonderful gift. You've made it much easier for them to hold on to the hostages. Why don't you put the pressure on Hamas instead of Israel? Why don't you do something to help the hostages rather than hurt them? And why don't you do something to stand behind the country that was attacked rather than stand behind the people who did the attacking?
Huckabee's comments come after Hamas released video of emaciated Israeli hostage Eviatar David digging what he feared would be his own grave.
People want to see starvation in Gaza. Look at the hostages. That's who's being starved. And look how well fed the Hamas members appear to be.
Huckabee also called out the international media for its reporting on what's happening inside Gaza.
The coverage has been deplorable. And the sad part is most of the information actually comes from Hamas. When they say that IDF soldiers are just mass shooting of innocent people coming to the feeding sites, that's a lie. They're the ones who are murdering people. They're murdering them who are getting food that they didn't have to pay for. And then they blame it on Israel. And the sad part is the international media just buys it hook, line, and sinker, reports it as truth, and they're perpetuating one of the biggest lies in all of history.
Given the challenges Israel is facing, Huckabee says people need to pray.
I hope people will recognize that Israel is in a very tough place. They need to pray that Israel can get this over with, but most importantly, pray that all the hostages come home. I think President Trump is on the right path when he says Hamas has to go. They have no future in Gaza, and I hope people will listen to the president.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Chris, we've talked to you recently about the possibility Israel will move to take over Gaza. Does it seem pretty much set in stone now that Netanyahu and his cabinet will go ahead with this plan?
It does seem pretty well set in stone right now, but we'll see later today when the Security Cabinet meets, Ephraim. From the reports we've heard so far, that it's going to go ahead. Apparently, however, the IDF Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, he opposes the move. Some of the reasons, or a couple of the reasons, would be the exhaustion of the army right now and also the danger to many of the hostages. Reportedly, a senior Israeli official is saying he can resign if he disagrees. But as I said, we're going to find out more later today when the Security Cabinet meets. But as Ambassador Huckabee said, it's a very important time to be praying for Israel right now. It's facing, huge challenges, international opposition in the media and by people, nations calling for a Palestinian state. So a very important time to be praying for Israel.
Has Israel now given up on the ceasefire talks and a settlement to get the hostages back?
Well, I don't think they've completely given up either Israel or the United States for that matter, but they see right now that Hamas is making unwilling to compromise and making demands that they really can't agree to. And a number of people believe, too, that the recent calls that Ambassador Huckabee referred to by nations like France, the UK, Canada, and Ireland have really convinced Hamas that they're winning the PRR battle, and especially this campaign around the world that Israel is committing genocide within Gaza, or that they have a plan to starve the people of Gaza, while on the other hand, they're putting in as much aid as either the UN or Hamas will allow.
Well, so I wonder what this plan is.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go in and completely take over Gaza, that means Hamas has to go.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so it's probably reached this climax where the hostages is going to be at risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow, what a time. All right, let's check out the weather.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Below normal temperatures continue at the top of our region, so today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, partly sunny with a high near 79 in Vancouver, mostly sunny and low to mid-80s for Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Mostly sunny skies continue as we move down the Willamette Valley with daytime high temperatures in the low to mid-80s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene, with a west-northwest wind around 6 miles per hour this afternoon. Sunny again today across the central Oregon high desert with daytime highs in the low to mid-80s for Prineville and Bend and near 78 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 90. A nice day along the coast. In Coos Bay, mostly sunny and near 71. Sunny in Port Orford with a high near 69 and near 57 in Brookings. In Crescent City, California, partly sunny with a high near 63. In southern Oregon, sunny for the Rogue Valley with daytime highs near 90 in Grants Pass and mid to upper 80s for Medford and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with daytime highs near 83. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the mid-80s for Wairika. Sunny in Redding with the highest temperature on our map for the day at 96. Sunshine in Chico with a high near 93 and Sacramento near 92. Sunny and calm today across the Bay Area with daytime high temperatures in the low 80s for Santa Rosa and Napa and upper 60s in San Francisco with a light southwest wind. And today in San Jose, sunny with a high near 80. A snapshot of your Tuesday weather from Grange Co-op.
All right, good morning to you. And there's a picture from the top of Mount Ashland. Well, see that camera move?
It's moving.
It's moving.
Yeah.
Where's that looking? Which way is that looking?
I'm
That's got to be looking west because of the shadow.
Keep up with this
That's
thing
looking
this
north.
morning.
Okay. Okay, that's looking north. The other one's west because you saw a shadow.
Okay. Excellent. Well,
so that's that could be 360 right there.
That could
be 350, but it's close.
I'm interested, but it is it's bare anyway. Okay. Well, the baby boomer generation, 76 million kids born between 1946 and 1964, and boy, did we have a lot of products marketed towards us, from hula hoops to Levi's jeans, and even some entertainment, as happened on this day in history.
On August 5th, 1957, a Philadelphia dance show called Bandstand went national and became American Bandstand, an icon of American teen culture. Broadcast on 67 ABC stations, the debut featured clean-cut teens dancing to the not-so-clean-cut Jerry Lee Lewis hit, "Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On." At the center of it all was 26-year-old Dick Clark, who saw what few others did: the explosive potential of combining television, rock and roll, and the baby boom generation just coming of age. The show had started locally in 1952, but Clark's ambition helped launch it nationwide. With its gym bleachers, record rating segments, and teen regulars showing off the latest fashion and dance moves, American Bandstand became a cultural touchstone. It aired live 5 days a week until 1963, then moved to LA and ran for 24 more years, always with Clark at the helm. It had a good beat, and America danced to it.
Yes, we did.
Gosh, and we used to watch that in black and white.
Absolutely. I'll never forget. And of course, Dick Clark was known as America's oldest teenager.
Yeah. Well, he was right up until he died.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he was. He did the dropping of the ball in Times Square for how many years?
Oh, I don't know, but a long time, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, good morning to you. Quarter before the hour. Well, Pastor Jack Graham, he was on TBN with a good friend of ours, Eric Stackelbach, and they talked about the rise of anti-Semitism across the landscape, and here's what he had to say.
There is a subtle and sometimes not so subtle anti-Semitism in the world. And we shouldn't be surprised by this because the Bible tells us that the people of Israel will be scattered and they will be persecuted. And so it, in one sense, is not surprising. that we're seeing the world at some level turning against Israel, in spite of the fact that God has promised to bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. The secret of America is in our faith, in the foundations of our faith, and a part of that has been our support of Israel, especially in recent years. And so I'm concerned. I'm concerned when I see European nations and others, some in this nation, in America, not standing with the biblical worldview. We, at our church, we talk a lot about biblical worldview, which is to see the world through the lens of Scripture. And if you start making decisions and if you are a person who lives by what's going on around you, you're going to be confused, double-minded in every way. But if you know your Bible and you understand what the Bible is saying about Israel, about the state of the world in any generation, then you won't be living in fear, but you'll be living with your faith intact. So in Europe, you have a situation where once again, since the Second World War and the Holocaust, you have Jewish people that are very concerned about their future and if they're going to be supported. And in America, we see some of the same thing with the protests on the college campuses and some political figures and others supporting the Palestinian movement, which in effect is in support of terrorism. Yeah. Not every Palestinian is a terrorist, of course, we know that. But the fact is that these terrorists, Hamas and others, are part of the Palestinian movement in the world. And so when you're supporting a movement that is anti-God and anti-Christ and anti-Jewish, then you're supporting something that is destructive at every level. I reject replacement theology totally and completely because God keeps his promises to us as followers and believers in Christ, and he keeps his promises to Israel. And when he gave Israel a promise that they would be a nation until the end of time and through the end of time into the future, beyond time, that promise, God never breaks a promise, and he's not breaking his promise to Israel. In fact, the central sign, the super sign, if you will, that we are in the final hours, if you will, of human history, we're on the clock, is the super sign of Israel. Once Israel went back into the land and restored as God had promised them in 1948, they are in their homeland, they're fighting to preserve that, and yet in the end, the scenario in the Bible is that the whole world will rise up against Israel. In that day, they will be alienated and isolated. But God has a plan, and he delivers them in his own way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, replacement theology is just, it's so amazing to me, because every time we do a show in Israel, I'll get emails from evangelical pastors. And so you kind of go, wow, it's really out there. Yeah. What do you do with it? So, all right, good morning to you. We'll take a ice cream break right now.
Set free and the tyrants kneel. The walls fall down and our land be healed. But church, if they want to see change in the...
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
It can be puzzling assembling all the right pieces for your insurance needs in retirement. I'm Michelle Slate. Lighthouse Financial shines guiding light on retirement, investing, and insurance. Guiding you through the stormy seas of insurance, Lighthouse stands out as a beacon of hope, offering you wise counsel and biblically responsible investing. Lighthouse Financial. Call us today, 541-494-1034.
The threat of wildfire poses a growing risk to Oregonians. You can prepare now by taking 3 important steps. Create a home inventory, make copies of important financial records, and contact your insurance company to make sure you have the right amounts and types of home insurance coverage. Be wildfire ready by being insurance ready. Visit dfr.oregon.gov/prepare now to learn how.
Okay, welcome back. At 9 minutes before the top of the hour yesterday, I had Jeff Carrera back on the show. He's quite in the know and does a lot of media work. And I asked him the question, okay, Jeff, what's your take of the Russia-Gate hoax, and its exposure now, and where's it going to go? And here's what he had to say.
Well, I agree with Tulsi Gabbard. I think it's treasonous conspiracy. I think you had actors that were trying to subvert the Trump presidency. And I think it was all a lie. I mean, basically, it was a way to prevent Hillary Clinton's email scandal from getting traction, to divert the attention to this issue, to create this out of thin air, and really to, obviously help bring down the Trump campaign. He wound up winning, and then make sure that he wasn't effective as president by hanging this over his head for his term. And it led to the Mueller investigation and the whole special counsel. So it was effective by that degree because it certainly harmed the Trump presidency. But it was, absolutely illegal, in my opinion. You had crimes that were committed. I would like to see a lot of these people indicted. I don't think that's going to happen, Perry, because the evidence shows that over the years, these Democrats can get away with whatever they want to get away with, and they're never held accountable. I'm just basing it on the past track record. I mean, look at the Durham Index, appendix. You had all of this damaging information that was concealed for all these years. I mean, Durham had it. And it was in some kind of burn bag or some kind of secret room in the DOJ. They're just now, it was like a haunted house with all the secret rooms and secret passageways. I mean, it's just so frustrating. We've been talking about this for so many years. We called it out from the very beginning as to what it was. I mean, it was all a bunch of lies. The Steele dossier is just a bunch of lies.
Okay, so something's happened from then when I talked to him till today, and that is a grand jury is being assembled.
Right.
And that could be the game changer. I don't know if President Obama gets indicted. I mean, he may get indicted, then pardoned. I don't know. or immune.
Executive privilege.
Executive privilege. But these other cast of characters, I don't know. Who is going to get the brunt of this?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
And I would ask one other question.
What?
Where did it all start? Didn't it start with Hillary?
I thought so, yeah.
So it was her attempt not only to win the election, but to cover up the email scandal.
Right, to take attention off the email scandal.
Yeah.
And of course, it, was this Steele dossier, which was...
Hang in there, folks. We're all tired of this story, but for the sake of the government and the integrity of a democracy, this has to be sifted out.
We're tired of this story, but it's not done.
No, it's not.
It is not done at all. Okay. Well, these days, it seems as though you can rent just about anything, including a grandmother.
In Tokyo, Japan, a unique service is giving older women meaningful work and giving clients something money usually can't buy: comfort. It's called OK Oba-chan, or OK Grandmother, launched in 2011 by a Japanese company facing a saturated handyman market. The idea? If you can rent a handyman, why not rent a grandmother? For around $55 an hour, clients can hire a caring woman in her 60s or 70s to cook, clean, offer advice, or simply provide the warm, motherly presence they may have never had. One worker, 69-year-old Teiko Kaji, says she's never bored and loves the human connection the job brings. In a country where loneliness is common and the population is rapidly aging, this service hits two needs at once: emotional companionship for clients and empowering work for older women who are often shut out of the workforce. It's a modern twist on a traditional role where wisdom, kindness, and experience are the most valuable skills of all.
and worth about $55 an hour. Yeah. How about
Is this
that?
what technology's done to us?
I don't know, but you know what? Think about it. It's not a bad idea for those who need grandma around and they don't have a grandma available. A lot of wisdom, a lot of comfort, a lot of stability. A lot of things come from a good, steady grandma.
Well, that's for sure.
Now we need another division. The grandpa division.
Grandpa division.
Yeah, because grandpas have stuff to offer too.
You bet
so
we
there
do.
you go.
All right, take with you Romans 10:13 today. For whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. That's another one of those interesting verses that causes division.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. For whoever. Could I say whoever?
You did.
For whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. All right, we'll take a ice cream break with a
side of oysters.
Side of food.
The threat of wildfire poses a growing risk to Oregonians. You can prepare now by taking 3 important steps. Create a home inventory, make copies of important financial records, and contact your insurance company to make sure you have the right amounts and types of home insurance coverage. Be wildfire ready by being insurance ready. Visit dfr.oregon.gov/prepare now to learn how.
Where big ideas grow.
Stewardship begins with the knowledge that nothing belongs to us, but everything belongs to the Lord. This helps us to run a business not in the fear of lack, but in the assurance of His care and provision. Such a perspective eliminates the drive to sell and replaces it with a heart that says serve. This begins with serving our clients and coworkers with integrity and genuine care. That's why at Kelly's, it's automotive service with a heart for God and treating others as we ourselves would want to be treated. Our promise is to never sell our clients anything we don't believe they need. Another is to do all we can to meet other needs, such as shuttle service and loaner cars, or taking the time to really listen, even at times praying with our customers. Sometimes this means sacrifice, going above and beyond, but that's why I work for Kelly's Automotive Service. Honoring God while serving people with honesty and integrity.
Applegate River Golf and RV Resort, a pristine 9-hole course alongside the Applegate River. Their clubhouse offers a golf simulator experience. The RV Resort is adjacent to the golf course with convenient pull-through parking. Applegate River Golf and RV Resort. Information at applegaterv.com.
You're watching the Dove TV, encouraging and informative for Southern Oregon and the Rogue Valley. Seen on KDOV 18, KDSO 24, and these Dove TV affiliates.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove, better known as Let's Make a Deal.
I'll take door number 2.
Oh, here he is, behind door number 1, Jerry Bilden, the man of the hour.
You're a loser.
You push that, and you get a big L on your forehead.
That's right. Good morning.
Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. As always, a lot in the news. We'll get that going for you. The weather, not bad. It's actually been seasonably wonderful.
Yeah.
We'll start to tick up as the week progresses, and by the time we get into the weekend, I did see a triple digit there.
Yeah, it's going to warm up again. And isn't it unusual, especially this time of the year, where we're getting reports on the East Coast of much more smoke, wildfire smoke than we have out here. You know, things are kind of reversed, and the smoke on the East Coast is primarily from the wildfires in Canada, and they're pulling the smoke down. So, in fact, yesterday, Detroit, the number 3 most polluted city in the world. Wow. And that was from that smoke. So you guys hang on out there.
Yeah, we know what that's about.
Oh, boy, do we. Oof.
All right, good morning to you. What's going on?
Well, first of all, it is National Work Like a Dog Day.
Well, what a concept.
Yeah, how do you think that'll work around here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Anyway, there are 2 common idioms that we use in our everyday lives, and they are, it's a dog's life and work like a dog. So these are opposite ends of the spectrum, aren't they? Well, the difference is there really are working dogs out there, ranch, farm dogs, military, police work, and others. Yep. And they do work hard. They're tireless almost. Right. And then on the other hand, there are dogs that are pets. They can sleep all day long if they want.
Well, our dog works hard at being our dog. Part of it is being a dog.
That's funny.
Sleeping everywhere it's not supposed to sleep.
There you go. There you go. Say no more. So whichever it is for you, for you, today is Work Like a Dog. Also, National Night Out Day, and this promotes police community partnerships in neighborhoods across country. And I think that especially in some particular cities and municipalities across country, they'd like to see more of this because there have been defund police movements in a lot of places, and they're paying the price for it. And a lot of folks are saying, let's bring them back. That was a good thing when we had protection. So National Night Out, support your local law enforcement.
That's kind of like Concerned Families over there in Josephine County.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually go out and do patrol, but they're unarmed.
Okay.
They just drive around, make sure everything's safe. If they see something, they call the police.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Community policing, that's wonderful. It's also pull them up. It's National Underwear Day.
It's got to have them on to pull them
up. Got to have undies. Get them on, please, by all means.
If you don't have them on, you can't pull them up.
And a lot of kids have heard their mother's warning, make sure you wear clean underwear, you might have an accident. Now, it turns out that this saying, it has variations that's repeated by mothers in countries all around the world. I don't know where this stuff gets started or why, but by all means, make sure they're clean. Also, it
Rhetorical.
Yeah. National Oyster Day. Oysters, rah, rah, rah. Yes, suck them down raw. All right. There are over 100 different species of oysters. Interestingly, oysters tend to take on the characteristics of the water in which they live. Because of this, they're typically named after the body of water in which they grow. And with that in mind, the Chesapeake Bay produces more oysters in the world than any other body of water. And only 1 out of every 10,000 oysters will produce a pearl. How about that? And they are high in vitamins B12 and A. They may benefit heart, skin, and brain health. And also
found that out.
Also supporting lung and kidney function.
Oh, well, yeah.
Additionally, oysters benefit the environment since their valves are capable of cleansing the ecosystem of pollutants. So that's interesting because that brings back the question that you had earlier. Are they safe to be eating? Because if they're filtering out pollutants, as bottom feeders, oh my goodness.
So they have A and B and what else?
A, B, they benefit to the heart, skin, and brain health.
Really?
Yeah. So B12.
Are we just making this up because we like them?
I'm looking for everything positive I can, man.
Well, I've had the ones where they slip through and you got, the trick as to whether or not you can chew them once.
Yeah, don't even try. Just
but my favorite ones, I was introduced to them by my buddy Bob Gass. I think we had gotten done playing golf, and he said, let's go in and have some oysters. And I go, you're kidding, So we went in, he ordered oysters Rockefeller.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where you bake them.
Yeah.
And then you put a little cheese and bacon bits on them, and then hot sauce on that.
Okay.
Well, the good thing about that is you actually chew them a little bit.
Yeah,
They don't slip down so fast, but they're cooked.
Yeah.
So if there's anything bad in them, you cook it out. So. Oysters, rah, rah, rah.
Okay, let's go on to something that more people like, including Judy's been texting me about the oysters. Yeah, no, let's have ice cream.
Okay.
And with that in mind, we love ice cream. And for the love of ice cream, here are great examples of what people have gone through. During World War II, the U.S. Navy converted a barge into a floating ice cream factory. It could produce 10 gallons of ice cream every 7 minutes and hold up to 2,000 gallons of ice cream. And in another situation, Commander J. Hunter Reinberg converted a plane to hold canned milk and cocoa in World War II. He then flew to an altitude where the temperature dropped below freezing, making ice cream for his troops stationed in Peleliu, which is in the Pacific, not far from the Philippines. And you know, his men loved him. If he had special missions, go to high altitudes, make that ice cream, and bring it back down to the troops.
Well, now that would be the ultimate flying job.
You bet. That's awesome.
What do? I fly to high altitude to make
ice cream.
Gosh, that's wonderful.
All right, so enjoy.
I'm for it.
That's what we got.
Okay, oysters and ice cream.
What a combo.
What a combo. Ooh. Well, speaking of slippery.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Below normal temperatures continue at the top of our region, so today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, partly sunny with a high near 79 in Vancouver, mostly sunny and low to mid-80s for Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Mostly sunny skies continue as we move down the Willamette Valley with daytime high temperatures in the low to mid-80s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene with a west-northwest wind around 6 miles per hour this afternoon. Sunny again today across the central Oregon high desert with daytime highs in the low to mid-80s for Prineville and Bend and near 78 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 90. A nice day along the coast. In Coos Bay, mostly sunny and near 71. Sunny in Port Orford with a high near 69 and near 57 in Brookings. In Crescent City, California, partly sunny with a high near 63. In southern Oregon, sunny for the Rogue Valley with daytime highs near 90 in Grants Pass and mid to upper 80s for Medford and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with daytime highs near 83. Into Northern California, sunny with a high in the mid-80s for Wairika. Sunny in Redding with the highest temperature on our map for the day at 96. Sunshine in Chico with a high near 93 and Sacramento near 92. Sunny and calm today across the Bay Area with daytime high temperatures in the low 80s for Santa Rosa and Napa and upper 60s in San Francisco with a light southwest wind. And today in San Jose, sunny with a high near 80. A snapshot of your Tuesday weather from Grange Co-op.
And there's a beautiful picture from the top of Mount Ashland looking north, and that's right off the broadcast building up there. So beautiful, clear sky.
I got a question. We're at the very top of the mountain here. Obviously, this is a platform that they have built for some communications hardware. I'm not sure what.
Some microwave up there.
Yeah, 7,500 foot in altitude or elevation up there. So that thing's covered in snow in the wintertime. What do? Do they shovel that stuff out? Do they keep that stuff clear? I mean, we're looking at equipment here. That would be buried. All that stuff would be deep under snow. What do they do with it?
Okay, that one, that's a good question, but to answer it, that's on top of the building, and it's in the wind. So actually, those microwave dishes don't get buried. Okay, so if you see, there's a vent up there too. See the vent open?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they maintain it, and they also rely on the winds up there to keep it low.
Well, that you have a good point there because now there's where the top of the lift is over there. Wait a minute, that's the building over there.
No, you're on top of another building.
Really?
Yeah, there's two buildings up there. Okay, so
well, I've never been up there much.
Well, yeah. Well, you ski the other side.
No, I ski right in front of that, but but that's interesting too because but you
one's the dome.
You make a good good point about the window because oftentimes on Mount Ashland, the most shallow snow coverage is at the top.
It's at the top.
Yeah,
and so. But that's made. So you see a vent there. You see some microwave equipment there. You see the guy towers or the guy line or the guy wires to the tower. So that's somewhat manageable. I'm not saying it doesn't get covered, but it doesn't stay there long. Okay. But then there's the dome up there, which is something entirely different.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
right.
God bless those
That's what it
people
looks
up
like
there.
in the summertime. Yeah. And remember, the tip is, and my whole family keeps repeating it to me, don't ski in the fog. Okay, let's move on.
Dummy.
All right, well, there are times in all of our lives where we find ourselves in a place of temptation. And here with some encouragement and some suggestions is Pastor Greg Laurie.
Has sin been bringing havoc into your life? Is there some sin or some vice that has gotten a control of you? Remember what God said to Cain? You better master it or it's going to master you. And the same is true for all of us. Now, I cannot master sin in my own power. I cannot overcome sin in my own strength. But through the power of God, I can do it because greater is he that is in me and he that is in the world. All right? So take whatever issue you're dealing with, whatever sin you're struggling with, whatever vice seems to have a permanent hold in your life. And I want to tell you something. God is bigger than that problem. He's bigger than that sin. He's bigger than that addiction. And you can overcome it through Jesus Christ. Okay? But keep something in mind. Don't unnecessarily put yourself in a place of vulnerability. Don't unnecessarily put yourself in a place where you could be pulled down. Where did Adam and Eve get tempted? At the place God told them to not be. So I cannot avoid the influence of culture in the world. It's everywhere, right? But if I'm on a diet, should I hang around at Krispy Kreme donuts? If I have a weakness in another area, should I be in a place where I could be more easily tempted, right? So make practical decisions. Because 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, there is no temptation taking you, but such as is common to man. But God, who is faithful, will not allow you to be tempted above your capacity to resist, but will with the temptation make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. Let me just paraphrase that. There's always a way out of every temptation. There just is. Sometimes it's as simple as the door. Sometimes it's as simple as the off button. Press it.
Press it. Good advice.
And no is a complete sentence.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at some of the top stories today. And of course, the big one yesterday that kind of took the news headlines for quite a while was the Democrat House representatives in the state of Texas walked out. They were trying to avoid a special session that had been called by Governor Abbott to not only vote on redistricting or reapportionment or gerrymandering, however you want to look at that, and there were other key things, and that was aid to the flood victims down in the Texas area that were just ravished by that flood. Anyway, they all left town, got on an airplane, flew away. And great controversy. This has happened. They've done this before and they lost, and they're going to lose again. And this is really interesting. Well, in the meantime, what's the deal? If they leave the state during the special session, there's nothing that the governor can do about it, but he did call for their arrest. In other words, if they come back into the state while the special session is still in session, they can be arrested. So they kind of forced themselves to be out of the state for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting? They went to Illinois, one of the most Democrat gerrymandered states in the country.
Right.
Great optics there. Why did they pick Illinois?
I don't know. This is stupid on steroids. And so the other thing is that I understand they're being fined $500 a day. Now, some of these are part-time legislators. Okay, so, I mean, sooner or later, it really costs them a lot. This is a stupid move. If you get away from all the emotions of it, they still lose because the Republicans have the vote to pass all this stuff. But they can't do it because they don't have a quorum. So here's what Governor Abbott said on Fox yesterday about this.
Texas is doing what we are allowed to by the law. And one reason why that law exists the way that it does is because the Democrats brought a lawsuit after our last redistricting, and that decision and that lawsuit came out last year. And that lawsuit recognized that coalition districts are not required. And so Texas has a right to redraw these lines to fully represent the desires of every voter in the state. But Sean, that misses the point here. The point here is that Democrats have done something that's very un-Texan. They've turned their backs on their fellow Texans. When it came to a fight, they turned and ran away, not just from this redistricting fight, they ran away from dealing with the flooding issues that are still echoing across the Kerrville area. Families desperately need results from the state legislature in this 30-day special session that are not going to be delivered because Democrats are hanging out in Chicago and New York and other places.
Well, there you go. In the meantime, where does this go legally? And again, Jonathan Turley, former law professor, he said this on Fox yesterday.
Well, Democrats have used this tactic in the past. Actually, it was not successful the last time. And it's the sort of legislative equivalent of a child holding his breath until his parents yield to his demands. You're more likely to pass out than prevail. And that is the same as in this circumstance. The governor can call more special sessions. So it's unlikely the Democrats are going to be able to keep this up long enough. They're trying to run out the clock. Now, what the governor is referring to is itself a difficult process. One of the things that he has suggested is that the Attorney General of Texas can argue that these legislators have abandoned their office. Now, to do that, you've got to go to court, and the judge has to say, yeah, this office is now vacant because of their actions. That's a really tough argument to make, but it is possible, but it takes time. That's what the Democrats are hoping for. They need 100 of 150 members to make a quorum. That's why roughly 50 have fled to these Democratic strongholds. Now, when he refers to bribery, he's saying, look, we're going to hit you with very high fines, and you cannot get other people to pay those fines, and you can't accept money during this flight, and I'm going to argue that that is bribery. Once again, that takes a lot of time. So this is a standoff that ultimately the governor is likely to win, but there's no good options here for either side, in my view.
Yeah, it delays the resources going where they need to go. Redistricting being what it is, this game is played in every state by every party that's in control.
Absolutely.
And for them to do this is just showmanship. But look, it's crazy.
Speaking of showmanship, do you see the governor of California has weighed in on this, Governor Gavin Newsom? He says that he vows to fight fire with fire if Texas lawmakers pass legislation regarding redistricting. Of course, this comes from the governor of a supermajority state. So is this grandstanding? Is he serious? Or does he have other intentions here, do you think?
Well, look, he's running for president. He's actually still polling number one among the D's to be.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even know if that's worth mentioning, but the point being he's running. And by the way, what's he going to do with fire? Did he say what it is? How's he going to do? He's governor one state telling the governor another state what to do?
Threatening to suspend the redistricting board in California and to start drawing lines himself to increase their representatives by 5 Democrats. To counter the 5.
See the hypocrisy of that?
Absolutely. And speaking of hypocrisy, remember when Oregon Republicans walked out of the legislature over a contentious bill that they didn't agree with?
They didn't think that through.
No, nobody came to their defense either. They didn't think it through, and they suffered the consequences, didn't they?
They stayed one day past the unexcused absence, and they lost their ability to run for re-election.
And they're all out.
They're all out.
Yes.
And I understand fighting a bill, but when you got to step back from the ocean and say, do we have the votes? If the answer is no, then what do you do?
Right.
Walking out doesn't do anything.
No.
You know, and you lost your job.
They did, and
now
so
they can come back and run again after a term, but they couldn't run for re-election.
Okay.
I don't know what's going to happen in this next election cycle.
Yeah, I know.
Because a lot of them had their spouses step in and get elected.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to tell your spouse, sorry, honey, you're out and I'm back in? How's that going to work?
Can you imagine? They're running against each other. I love it.
Okay.
Oh, God.
The other story is there's another book that broke, but this could be interesting because it's sparking a whole new level investigation. Apparently, the Biden White House orchestrated lawfare against President Trump in the run-up to the 2024 election, hoping to jail or bankrupt President Trump as the standard bearer in order to prevent him from becoming president. Well, that didn't work. But every little lower court in the world was throwing suits at him, and he seemingly got past all of them. But apparently this was being orchestrated from the White House. Now, here's the problem. Who was doing it? If President Biden was using the auto pen for everything else.
Yeah. Well, the question is who's using the auto pen, because that might have been the person doing it.
So now you have two former presidents under investigation. Yeah. So we'll see where this goes. This is a whole nother story. In the meantime, speaking of the story, and that is Russiagate being back in the news, the DOJ, as you know, all this came out of Tulsi Gabbard releasing the intelligence report that showed that there's clear evidence that President Obama orchestrated this whole mess. Well, now, Attorney General Pam Bondi has officially launched a grand jury investigation following the criminal referral from the National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, regarding the origins of the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. So apparently this changes everything. Now, I don't know who and where the grand jury is going to be assembled, but the fact that it's going to a grand jury is going to make every name that's been mentioned in this be real nervous.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, we'll see where this goes. In the meantime, and you'll have this a little bit later on coming up with CBN Newswatch in just a moment, but Israel has decided today, at least it's being planned today, to approve a plan to go in and completely take over Gaza. Now, think about what that means. That means you have to eliminate Hamas. And so, in the meantime, they're doing airdrops into areas for Palestinians to get food, while, as you know, the Hamas has been stealing that aid.
Right under the nose of the UN, and the UN ignores it.
Yeah, the UN is just worthless.
Yes.
So, anyway, they're going to go in and take over. Now, what does this mean? Well, yet to find out, but... Does this mean a timeline for the remaining hostages? Who knows? Okay, those are the top stories on this, here we are, Tuesday morning. And I don't know what your flavor is, but I'll stick with vanilla.
All right, let's have it.
My Savior's arms are open wide, and I felt love for the very first time.
Range Co-op, where big ideas grow.
At Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, we salute you. Military Mondays are here. Active duty military guard, reserve, and retired military members get 50% off their ticket price every Monday of the season. It's our way of saying thank you for your service. But heads up, this offer is only valid on Mondays. One discount per reservation and can't be booked online. Call to book your adventure today. Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, where adventure runs wild, and we honor our heroes. Some restrictions apply. Visit hellgate.com for details.
Welcome home to the Dove, an encouraging place, an informative place, a safe network for your entire family, offering hope.
Welcome home.
The Dove's mission is to be a beacon of truth, providing authentic faith-based content to those seeking Christ and those faithful, from a who's who of respected Christian teachers.
Welcome home to the Dove.
The Dove Network, broadcasting and streaming reliable, trustworthy news, information, and talk. Featuring Mornings on the Dove, Focus Today, CBN News, and other current affairs programming to stay connected. The Dove Network, a trusted friend, enriching your faith with reliable, inspiring content and spiritual resources that will change your life forever.
Welcome home to the Dove TV, radio, and the Dove.us.
The Dove, encouraging and informative. You are welcome here.
All right, good morning to you. Welcome back. Here we are about 24 minutes past the hour. A little bit of Oregon news for you this morning. Our governor is weighing whether or not she is going to veto the funds for Willamette Falls in what they call an intertribal project. This is kind of interesting because some tribal governments are urging the governor to support their efforts to restore public access to the Willamette Falls after the governor announced that she's considering vetoing the $45 million funds for the project. So some want people to get closer to the falls with walkways and things like that. There's that old power plant you're talking about.
Yes, indeed.
And others want to say, no, leave it alone. Let's stay away from this and let's restore it back to its natural thing. The announcement came amid a ongoing conflict among regional tribes over both the project and fishing access at the falls. So we'll see where this is going to go. In the meantime, the governor is also signaling her willing to kind of pull back funding from an organization helmed by the gubernatorial predecessor, and that would be fellow Democrat, former Governor Kate Brown. She was named executive director of the Willamette Falls Trust last year. So if she says no, she would be saying no to her predecessor.
Is this a monetary issue? Does she just not want to spend the money, or is there an environmental issue here? What's the crux of this?
I think it's all the above.
Okay.
I think it's tribes, fishery, fishing access, too many people, too much public involvement, disturbing the national habitat by putting in people paths, and it's $45 million.
Well, you can see that habitat has been disturbed years ago. The first power plant generating electricity for an American city happened right there, as Portland was electrified through the Willamette Falls.
Well, there you go. The only thing I can say is that this is an interesting twist for our governor, especially if she makes a ruling against her predecessor.
Yeah, that's
so we'll keep that one in mind. All right, let's take a look at Wall Street for a Tuesday morning. Thank you, Preston, at Smart Lawn. If you're smart, you'll get your lawn. Anyway, the Dow's down 95, the S&P is down 6, and the NAS is up 16. So mixed bag this morning. Not sure what's going on there. The labor numbers are kind of very contentious these days. In fact, that person got fired by the Trumper. Gold's up 34.30. Silver's back to 37.62, and crude oil's down. Let's see here. I'm going to say from yesterday, probably about 4 cents. $66.73 a barrel.
Yeah, well, I got a thirsty truck out there. It's time to go fill her up. I should get an office pool going on how much it's going to cost to fill that beast.
Are you
up.
empty?
I am just about empty. It's time.
How big is your tank?
About 32 gallons.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead, talk.
So I am going, and you know what? That might be a way to fund my fuel fill-ups. I'll get an office pool going. Everybody contributes into the pool, and half of it goes to the winner.
$136.
How much?
$136.
You are just right about on the nose.
I'm just guessing, but I don't think
am
I'm
not
too
kidding
far
you.
off.
I was just off 140 last time.
Really?
Yes.
136.
It just hurts me.
Well, there goes your 401k.
All right. Well, you mentioned a person under fire from President Trump here a second ago. And, of course, that is the labor statistics boss who's been under fire. And U.S. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remmer joined Mornings with Maria by phone and reacted to these clips of President Trump about his decision to fire the statistics boss, as well as Senator Richard Blumenthal calling for her resignation.
We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous. If you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So it's a scam, in my opinion.
I think the Secretary of Labor ought to resign. I think this is a resigning issue. For the president to interfere with the basic function of the Commissioner of Labor Statistics to assure accurate flow of information, I think, is a resigning matter for Lori Chavez de Remmer.
Well, it's nonsense. I think Senator Blumenthal knows very well that the Labor Commissioner is independent of the Secretary of Labor, and the President absolutely has the right to determine who is going to be advising him, and I support the president's decision in this replacement. This is an important time in America's history, but the one thing we count on is accurate information. This is information that when we see revisions, as we saw this last week, of course the president is going to take that into account. When we've seen a pattern of revisions happening over the last few years, we have to ensure for the American people that we can trust this data. It's influential, it changes markets, it changes investments, and the transparency that the president is asking for is important to the American economy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I say this carefully, I'm not bragging, but we talked about that. I brought this a couple of years ago to our attention.
You have talked about this repeatedly.
Okay, so the labor numbers come out, I think it's the first Friday of the month, okay? And depending on who's in the White House, that initial number always favors that person.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then what you don't hear, by the end of the month, that number has been revised at least once, if not several times, okay, before it gets carried over into the next month.
Yeah.
Why was the first number so far off?
Exactly.
Or was it true? And the other ones were modifications. Why is there such a discrepancy that this thing has to be modified in every 10 or 15 days?
Yeah.
So something's wrong here. Something is desperately wrong here. And it goes back to, who can you trust? Well, you can't trust the labor secretary.
Right, and I think Donald Trump made a very good point there. I think one of the most glaring, problems that they had with wrong numbers came out right before the election.
Yeah.
And those numbers were way off. And then, interestingly, right after the election, they corrected.
Wait for a year from now when all these companies that have moved into the United States start hiring people. We may have a labor shortage.
Oh, yeah.
Or we may have a labor shift. Okay, people are literally changing careers to accommodate the growth.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that, too. It brings to mind, yesterday I heard a statistic that, like, last month we had an actual negative immigration number in this country. Can you believe it?
3 months, no arrests.
Can you? It's amazing.
It just shows you it could have been done all along.
It wasn't about spending more money or appropriating more money from. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
What a thought.
All right, we're going to take a break and look for some ice cream.
You shut the mouths of lions. You tell the dead to read. You're the one who walks the fire. You take the orphans.
Applegate River Golf and RV Resort, a pristine 9-hole course alongside the Applegate River. Their clubhouse offers a golf simulator experience. The RV Resort is adjacent to the golf course with convenient pull-through parking. Applegate River Golf and RV Resort. Information at applegateRV.com. Clean water is essential to your good health. Ultra Pure Purified Water has been delivering purified, healthy drinking water to the Rogue Valley since 1995. Locally owned and family run, Ultra Pure Purified Water uses a multi-stage process ensuring your delivery of water is 99.8% pure, so your family stays hydrated and healthy. Online at ultrapurewaterinc.com or call 541-734-0828. 541-734-0828. Chris Silva understands your home and your commercial buildings are two of the largest investments most people make in a lifetime. One is for your family, the other is to support your family financially. That is why Chris Silva Painting goes the extra mile to protect both homes and commercial buildings with proper painting preparation and high-quality primers and paints. Serving Southern Oregon since 2006, this family-owned and operated business has painted over 1,000 homes. Chris Silva Painting offers an industry-leading 5-year warranty that covers materials and labor on all painting projects work for both residential and commercial buildings, both interior and exterior painting. Chris and his crew are courteous, they are efficient, organized, timely, and clean. Chris Silva Painting also offers military discounts. At Chris Silva Painting, our mission statement is to bring Christ's heart and principles to our customers and our job sites. We do that with honesty, integrity, and hard work. We don't cut corners, we paint them. CCB number 176097. Chris Silva Painting, 541-890-3960.
Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
Hi, good morning. 26 before the hour, and boy, just everything's moving. There's so many moving parts out there, and it looks like Israel is about ready to make a major decision. So let's check in with CBN News Watch and get caught up.
This is CBN News Watch.
It's Tuesday, the 5th of August, going to begin this half hour in Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly decided to take over all of the Gaza Strip. As Chris Mitchell now reports from Jerusalem, the decision means the Israeli Defense Forces would enter areas where Israel believes many of the remaining hostages are located.
Monday, Netanyahu announced he will convene his cabinet to give instruction to defeat Hamas and free the hostages.
We must continue to stand together and fight together to achieve the war goals we have set, all of them. The defeat of the enemy, the release of our hostages, and the assurance that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel. Later this week, I will convene the cabinet to instruct the IDF on how to achieve these three goals, all of them, without exception.
Those three goals come in the midst of a battle between the U.S., Israel, and Hamas over who controls getting food to the people of Gaza. Friday, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee accompanied Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to visit the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to report on the U.S. Israeli-backed effort that's provided more than 100 million meals to hungry Gazans in the past 2 months.
The most important thing I saw was the efficiency of the GHF operation, which, by the way, Hamas hates. They said it was their second most important thing to get rid of if they're going to have a deal to let the hostages go. What does that tell you? It's working. And the people of Gaza actually get the food for free, and Hamas can't steal it.
Huckabee also talked to some of the people at the distribution site.
They don't want Hamas there anymore. They're sick of them. But they're also have no mood to have the PLO or Fatah or one of the other Palestinian organizations run Gaza in the future. So I think it's moving in the right direction. It's interesting that most of the Gulf states now recognize that, say that Hamas must disarm, let all the hostages go. Maybe we need to get that message to France, the UK, Canada, and Ireland.
All of those countries are calling for the establishment of a Palestinian state.
What I'd say to them is, you've given Hamas a wonderful gift. You've made it much easier for them to hold on to the hostages. Why don't you put the pressure on Hamas instead of Israel? Why don't you do something to help the hostages rather than hurt them? And why don't you do something to stand behind the country that was attacked rather than stand behind the people who did the attacking?
Huckabee's comments come after Hamas released video of emaciated Israeli hostage Eviatar David digging what he feared would be his own grave.
People want to see starvation in Gaza. Look at the hostages. That's who's being starved. And look how well-fed the Hamas members appear to be.
Huckabee also called out the international media for its reporting on what's happening inside Gaza.
The coverage has been deplorable, and the sad part is most of the information actually comes from Hamas. When they say that IDF soldiers are just mass shooting of innocent people coming to the feeding sites, that's a lie. They're the ones who are murdering people. They're murdering them who are getting food that they didn't have to pay for, and then they blame it on Israel. And the sad part is the international media just buys it hook, line, and sinker, reports it as truth, and they're perpetuating one of the biggest lies in all of history.
Given the challenges Israel is facing, Huckabee says people need to pray.
I hope people will recognize that Israel is in a very tough place. They need to pray that Israel can get this over with, but most importantly, pray that all the hostages come home. I think President Trump is on the right path when he says Hamas has to go. They have no future in Gaza, and I hope people will listen to the president.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Chris, we've talked to you recently about the possibility Israel will move to take over Gaza. Does it seem pretty much set in stone now that Netanyahu and his cabinet will go ahead with this plan?
It does seem pretty well set in stone right now, but we'll see later today when the Security Cabinet meets, Ephraim. From the reports we've heard so far, that it's going to go ahead. Apparently, however, the IDF Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, he opposes the move. Some of the reasons, or a couple of the reasons, would be the exhaustion of the army right now and also the danger to many of the hostages. Reportedly, a senior Israeli official is saying he can resign if he disagrees. But as I said, we're going to find out more later today when the Security Cabinet meets. But as Ambassador Huckabee said it's a very important time to be praying for Israel right now. It's facing, huge challenges, international opposition in the media, and by people, nations calling for a Palestinian state. So a very important time to be praying for Israel.
Has Israel now given up on the ceasefire talks and a settlement to get the hostages back?
Well, I don't think they've completely given up either Israel or the United States for that matter, but they see right now that Hamas is making unwilling to compromise and making demands that they really can't agree to. And a number of people believe, too, that the recent calls that Ambassador Huckabee referred to by nations like France, the UK, Canada, and Ireland have really convinced Hamas that they're winning the PR battle, and especially this campaign around the world that Israel is committing genocide within Gaza, or that they have a plan to starve the people of Gaza, while on the other hand, they're putting in as much aid as either the UN or Hamas will allow.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, keep an eye on this. This is big. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. All right. So is the weather and the guy that does it.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Below normal temperatures continue at the top of our region, so today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, partly sunny with a high near 79 in Vancouver, mostly sunny and low to mid-80s for Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Mostly sunny skies continue as we move down the Willamette Valley with daytime high temperatures in the low to mid-80s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene, with a west-northwest wind around 6 miles per hour this afternoon. Sunny again today across the central Oregon high desert with daytime highs in the low to mid-80s for Prineville and Bend and near 78 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny with a high near 90. A nice day along the coast. In Coos Bay, mostly sunny and near 71. Sunny in Port Orford with a high near 69 and near 57 in Brookings. In Crescent City, California, partly sunny with a high near 63. In southern Oregon, sunny for the Rogue Valley with daytime highs near 90 in Grants Pass and mid to upper 80s for Medford and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, sunny with daytime highs near 83. Into northern California, sunny with a high in the mid-80s for Wairika. Sunny in Redding with the highest temperature on our map for the day at 96. Sunshine in Chico with a high near 93 and Sacramento near 92. Sunny and calm today across the Bay Area with daytime high temperatures in the low 80s for Santa Rosa and Napa and upper 60s in San Francisco with a light southwest wind. And today in San Jose, sunny with a high near 80. A snapshot of your Tuesday weather from Grange Co-op.
And a beautiful shot off the top of Mount Ashland looking north this morning. And whatever that little line is out there, it looks like it's just clouds.
I'm going over there this winter. I'm going over this platform. I'm doing it. Take a picture, bring it back. I got to see it with snow or no snow. Anyway, moving on. The baby boomer generation. 76 million babies born between 1946 and 1964.
You know why?
Why? Well, all the guys came back from the war.
There you go.
Exactly.
The war was over.
That's right.
The population doubled.
Boy, did it. And boy, did it cause a lot of mass marketing. We had things like, hula hoops, Levi's jeans, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including some forms of entertainment, as happened on this day in history.
On August 5th, 1957, a Philadelphia dance show called Bandstand went national and became American Bandstand, an icon of American teen culture. Broadcast on 67 ABC stations, the debut featured clean-cut teens dancing to the not-so-clean-cut Jerry Lee Lewis hit, Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On. At the center of it all was 26-year-old Dick Clark, who saw what few others did: the explosive potential of combining television, rock and roll, and the baby boom generation just coming of age. The show had started locally in 1952, but Clark's ambition helped launch it nationwide. With its gym bleachers, record rating segments, and teen regulars showing off the latest fashion and dance moves, American Bandstand became a cultural touchstone. It aired live 5 days a week until 1963, then moved to LA and ran for 24 more years, always with Clark at the helm. It had a good beat, and America danced to it.
Yes, we did. And boy, those rebellious teenagers were wearing jackets and ties.
Oh, gosh. Those
big poodle skirts.
Bad people.
Yes.
Did you ever see Dick Clark dance?
I never saw Dick Clark dance. Did you?
No.
Yeah.
He always stood in the corner with his long, skinny microphone.
Right. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, he set it all up and he let the kids go.
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Good stuff all the way around. All right. Well, Pastor Jack Graham, we highlight him once in a while. Got to ride in a cab with him one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's quite a guy. And very talkative. I don't know a preacher that isn't.
Who paid?
He did. I actually, I was going to pay, and he said, no, let me bless you. And I said, well, let me bless you. No, let me bless you. Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. He was on TBN, our good friends over there, and Eric Stackelback. I got to have Eric on the show. He's now the news director at TBN. He's quite a guy. He's fun. And I saw him at the NRV the other day, and I said, hey, are you allowed to do television on other networks? Well, of course. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a call.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Anyway, they were talking about the revival happening in the United States and in the United Kingdom. Is there a revival going on? Here's their discussion.
Well, it is a movement of prayer. Christians have prayed for generations that that America would return to God, and every generation needs to pray to that end for revival and spiritual awakening, and that it would touch every segment of society, from sports to entertainment to government, that the Word of God and the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ would penetrate light in the darkness, if you will. I believe we're experiencing, as you say, stirrings of revival. There's an old gospel song that says something like, raindrops round us are falling, talking about revival. Raindrops falling around us, but oh, for the showers we plead. So we're seeing the raindrops. We're seeing a steady rain, if you will, of revival. I do believe in churches that are preaching the gospel and teaching God's word, on college campuses, the movement that is going on among young people on college campuses. I grew up in the Jesus movement era of the late 1960s, and this feels and looks a lot like the Jesus movement, and then some, because now you've got the power of media more than ever. And so now there's a turning to Christ, a turning to God, or if not a turning, a seeking. And so this is the best time in my lifetime to preach the gospel. Wow. I mean, there's never been a better time than right now to preach the gospel. The Spirit of God is moving. There's just a new boldness, a new bravery, and it's happening. God's moving. Bible sales, talking about the Jesus book, which is the Bible. Bible sales are increasing up beyond 20% in America, in the United Kingdom. There's pockets of revival in the United Kingdom. You hear about all the, the advance of other religions in Europe, Muslim, Islam, and others. But there is a movement going on in the Christian church right now in Europe. So God always has his people, doesn't he? And when we talk about revival and spiritual awakening, Israel, the world scene, really we need to draw a circle around ourselves and pray for personal revival in our churches, but in our homes and in our families. And that's what's on my heart in these days, that our church and that every church that knows and loves the Lord Jesus Christ would surrender to the Lordship of Christ in their lives, be filled with the Spirit of God, and then go take this message of good news of the gospel of Christ to the world. And there's, again, a great opportunity. We have an open door, and when God opens doors, no man can shut them. So we need the boldness and the courage and the faith to go through those doors and do what God called us to do, why he made us.
Amen, amen, amen. All right, we'll take a quick revival break. We'll be right back.
The right cleaning company matters. Choose Dust Plus Cleaning and Carpet Care, a family-owned company proudly serving Grants Pass and nearby communities for over 25 years. We're passionate about delivering the best, whether it's carpets, using purified water for no window spots, or carefully washing solar panels. We're committed to superb customer service from start to finish. Radiant spaces from local professionals. Request a free quote today.
Welcome to Rise Direct Primary Care. Imagine a healthcare experience where you're known by name, cared for like family, and treated with compassion. How is that possible? With an affordable, flat monthly membership, you receive unlimited primary care and minor urgent care visits. No insurance needed. At Rise Direct Primary Care, we offer a friendly, affordable healthcare experience where you get a whole hour with your provider. Located in Central Medford and accessible by phone or text, we can typically get you in the same or next day. We prescribe urgent care medications directly from our office, saving you a trip and wait time at the pharmacy when you'd rather be at home getting better. Personalized medical care with a human touch. Rise Direct Primary Care is all about healing the sick with compassion and keeping the healthy healthy. Rise Direct Primary Care. We're here for you. Visit risehealthdpc.com or call or text us 541-827-8603. 541-827-8603.
And he did a really good job of really hiding a lot. I was looking at a person who was homeless, on drugs, dealing with perversion. So it was challenging, it was tough, but I had to believe God more than what I was seeing. And what he did was he said, I can strengthen you to sanctify him if you let me.
Tuesday on the 700 Club, right here on the Dove TV.
Welcome back. 9 minutes before the hour. Of course, hold on, folks. I know the fatigue factor on this one's a little high. It's called Russiagate.
Oh, gosh.
It's brewing in another direction, especially now that a grand jury has been called in. I had Jeff Carrera on. He's out of Texas. He's pretty much involved in a lot of things and writes for a lot of people. I'd asked him, I said, at the end of the day, you think there'll be any indictments? He's the second person that said, here's what he said.
John Brennan would have probably the most exposure because he clearly lied. I mean, Hillary Clinton, President Trump had a chance maybe to pursue charges against her in the first term. He decided not to do it. Barack Obama now has immunity. The Supreme Court decided that. So I think he's pretty much protected. So at the best thing that we can get is exposure, is a total revelation again to the American people as to what happened here, so that we know exactly the crimes that were committed. And maybe they won't get prosecuted, but at least the information can get out there. Same thing with the Epstein files. I mean, I think the American people are so tired of being lied to and having the facts hidden from us. So that can be one of the best things that the Trump administration does. Get all this information out to the public. We've seen the RFK, JFK, MLK files released. We need to keep doing that. I mean, that is productive. I mean, I'd love to see consequences. I just, have never seen the DOJ act in that way toward Democrats. I mean, there's a double standard of justice. Even though we have our people in place over there, how many layers underneath them are filled with career bureaucrats? I mean, we just found from the Bureau of Labor Statistics a Biden person that was, according to President Trump, fudging the job numbers, so he had to fire her. How many more of these plants are all throughout the DOJ and all throughout the government? I just would be pleasantly surprised if it does lead to charges and convictions. I think it should. Just based on the past track record, I don't see that happening. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, several people have taken that position, but something's happened in between time. I don't think anybody thought a grand jury would be appointed. That is a game changer. Mm-hmm. Okay, but let me say this. I don't want to say this politically. I just want to say it for the integrity of law.
Okay.
If you break it and there's no consequence, then there's no integrity of law. Mm-hmm. And these people clearly committed crimes. Yeah. There are going to have to be some indictments. Mm-hmm. I don't know who they are. I don't think President Obama will be, but if every one of these people get a pass, we just told America there is no law. We are lawless, right, and our Constitution is now negotiable.
Yeah, well, and these people basically live by the rule that Trump is so bad that the ends justify the means.
Yes. Okay, and that's not getting them anywhere.
No.
Every time they open the mouth, they go backwards.
Absolutely.
So the only thing I can say is on this particular case, folks, I know I'm tired of it too. I'm so sick of it. I don't even want to deal with it. But my motive now is nothing more than if we are all convinced that the law has been broken, there has to be a consequence.
Yeah.
And more than just destroying their career and their reputation, somebody has got to have some handcuffs put on them.
You know where this story is not getting the fatigue factor? On legacy media.
Well,
because they're not covering it.
Well, legacy media, legacy media is 1/3 of their highest ratings today, no matter which one you watch.
Wow.
1/3.
That speaks volumes.
Tells you a lot.
It sure does.
Okay.
All right.
So much for that noise.
So much, yeah. Well, these days, you can rent just about anything. So why not rent a grandma?
I want one.
In Tokyo, Japan, a unique service is giving older women meaningful work and giving clients something money usually can't buy: comfort. It's called OK Oba-chan, or OK Grandmother, launched in 2011 by a Japanese company facing a saturated handyman market. The idea? If you can rent a handyman, why not rent a grandmother? For around $55 an hour, clients can hire a caring woman in her 60s or 70s to cook, clean, offer advice, or simply provide the warm, motherly presence they may have never had. One worker, 69-year-old Teiko Kaji, says she's never bored and loves the human connection the job brings. In a country where loneliness is common and the population is rapidly aging, this service hits two needs at once: emotional companionship for clients and empowering work for older women who are often shut out of the workforce. It's a modern twist on a traditional role where wisdom, kindness, and experience are the most valuable skills of all.
Okay, for $25 an hour, sit in the chair and talk to you all day. Take a Romans 10:13 with you. For whoever, did I say what? Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Whoever, that's you. We'll be right back.
Amen.
Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? Want surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life? Now's the time to call State Farm agent Rory Wold in Medford.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Life is complicated enough. Why worry about what to do with your extra car? Skip the costs of maintaining it, storing it, insuring it, or renewing registration. Car repairs? Forget about it. Here's one easy solution to your car problem. Donate it to our station. It's fast, free, tax deductible, and if you donate, you're going to feel incredible knowing you're supporting quality programming. Interested? Just call this toll-free number or donate online. Thank you.
Co-op, where big ideas grow.
Clean water is essential to your good health. Ultra Pure Purified Water has been delivering purified, healthy drinking water to the Rogue Valley since 1995. Locally owned and family run, Ultra Pure Purified Water uses a multi-stage process ensuring your delivery of water is 99.8% pure, so your family stays hydrated and healthy. Online at ultrapurewaterinc.com or call 541-734-0828. 541-734-0828.
If you enjoy the Dove TV, tell a friend or family member. If they can't receive a signal, the Dove streams worldwide on Roku and Apple TV, plus online at thedove.us. Help encourage someone who needs hope. Spread the word about the Dove TV.
Where does the Bible teach that a whole generation of believers around the world will be taken en masse into God's presence at the time of the rapture? Today, we will take you step by step through what the Bible reveals will happen at the moment of the rapture and how this mighty act of power will lead the world into the future events the Bible predicts will happen in the last days.
Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. Folks, the Dove TV is encouraging and informative. Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 p.m. right here on the Dove.
Well, welcome back. And you've heard the term Gold Star family. Well, we have a really special guest today. I'm really honored to have with us today George Lutz. He's the founder of the Honor and Remember Corporation. It's a national nonprofit dedicated to permanent public recognition of every U.S. service member who died in the line of duty. Gold Star father and passionate advocate, George has traveled to all 50 states, bringing honor, healing, and unity to thousands of military families across the generations. And he has a book. It's titled Tragedy to Tribute. And there is a picture of the cover of the book. You can have check that out online, Tragedy to Tribute, and then a website, honorandremember.org. honorandremember.org, and there's a picture of the landing page of his website. George, good to see you. How are you, friend?
Hey, Perry. Thank you. I'm doing well, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with the listeners.
Well, thank you. Where are you? Where are we Skyping you in from?
Virginia, actually, Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach. Well, good to see you. Thank you for your time. This is fascinating. The book is more than a memoir. It's a national call to remembrance, and I'm glad I really want to say thank you for your son's sacrifice and for your call to duty in this area. It's so greatly needed.
Thank you.
What led you 20 years after losing your son decide to do this?
Well, the book is kind of a culmination, Perry, of the entire journey. The mission of national remembrance, right? I mean, Tony died in December of 2005, 20 years ago, and I began this journey soon after he was killed as a way of embracing my own healing, of a way of being able to know how America remembered and what we did as a nation to actually make a difference in the lives of families who have sacrificed so much. And so the Honor and Remember flag was created back in December of 2000, or December in Memorial Day, May of 2008, to become our national symbol of remembrance, right? Recognizing every single family. And the book is that journey of everything I've gone through, from traveling around the country to moving to Washington, D.C. for months and running across America and presenting flags to families, and everything that we've done to make sure that these families, that no family is ever forgotten by our citizens.
Beautiful. Do you think that flag in time will become a national symbol?
Well, absolutely do. It was the only reason for this organization to exist, was to create that national symbol. You know, I was inspired by the POW MIA flag movement, back in the 70s and then through into the 80s. And I recognized that what we needed was to complete that circle of tribute, right? With those that were missing, those that were captured, and those that were actually fallen. And so the Honor and Remember flag design was specifically for the purpose of national remembrance. And so far we have 29 state adoptions. Wow. So over half the country has already legislated this as their state symbol of remembrance. We do have a bill in Congress, Perry, H.R. 1363, that we hope will be passed in this Congress, by the end of our 250th year celebration of our nation's birth. And so very much so, my whole intent for creating this flag was it to become a national symbol.
Beautiful. I want to squeeze your heart just for a moment. I've interviewed a lot of veterans and heard their stories, and you can't help but just kind of, your heart and your head goes on tilt when you hear some of these stories. And every one of them have had a PTSD experience, no question about it.
Sure.
But you, as a Gold Father, you had a PTSD experience related to the same subject, but in a different way. Is that the common thing that you find with other Gold families?
Well, the Gold Star families all grieve in different ways, as you can imagine. I mean, we're not any different than any part of the citizenry of the general population. And so we're all going to grieve in different ways. Some families are very extroverted. Some families will never get out of bed. You'll never see them. And others just blend into the fabric, of our country. And, what I did was I just took something that was so horrific and so devastating that I decided to reach out to others rather than carry it within myself. And so, yeah, it's a form of post-traumatic stress, absolutely. But how do you get over that? You push through, you find purpose, and you just move forward, even if it's through the sludging of mud, to get where you're going. And I believe that has been my journey for 20 years now, is to make sure that I had a purpose, that I had a reason to get up every day. And getting America to recognize that sacrifice comes at a price and somebody else has to pay it, is kind of my mission, is making sure we all appreciate the fact that somebody else died for their country so that you didn't have to.
Wow. Not too long ago, we were going through a dark time in this country where the military and law enforcement were demonized. But that seems to be turning around. Are you sensing that?
I am, absolutely. I think change comes with administrations. I think that you will find, though, that there's D's and R's that can't agree with each other on no matter what the topic is. But I have seen a resurgence of patriotism lately that is really inspiring and actually gives me a hope that education might actually, get through, break through, and that more people might understand that, we don't have 250 years of freedom without 250 years of sacrifice.
Well said. You ever get frustrated where something so obvious as this is resisted?
Oh my gosh, the frustration we could spend hours on, Perry. Yes, I don't understand. When Tony came to me and he said, "Hey, Dad, I joined the Army," I said to him right off the bat, I said, "You're crazy, Tony. There's a war going on, and you could get hurt." And so what could I do as a father, as a loving father? I gave him a hug. I told him I loved him, and I said, "Keep your head down." But as a father who has now lost his son, I will tell you that every parent in America would rather somebody else died for their country besides their own loved one, me included. But I will tell you, Perry, that the least we can do, because somebody else is dying for their country, is to be appreciative. And I believe that through the Honor Remember flag, I've created a way for all of us to get it, right? To get it without question, to raise the bar in this country, and to be able to send a message to these families that we've never been able to send before. Yeah, there's a lot of resistance out there, and I don't understand it, and it is way, way frustrating. But politics, I've become to understand, is an ugly business.
Yeah, it's a contact sport.
Yeah.
How's your faith sustained you through all this?
Oh, my faith has been amazing. I mean, my God, I will tell you something that may touch a lot of your listeners, and how I was able to actually maintain my wits about me and keep from taking my own life, honestly, was 2 weeks after Tony was killed. I was wrestling with God over what am I going to do? How am I going to react? What should I do next? and the crying out really to the Lord. And he said very, very pointedly to me, as audibly as our conversation now, he said, you know, I know you're hurting because I lost my son too. And I want to tell you that your son and my son are together with me in paradise. And that's all I needed, Perry, to take away from my own grieving and my own inward, feeling of pain, and start to think about how others were dealing with this tremendous loss.
You're fascinating, George. I'm going to get you back, but let me just say this before we go. We are heading towards this 250th anniversary of this country, and to your earlier point is that so many people have given the ultimate that we are free. There seems to be a resurgence of genuine and authentic patriotism in America. Some have said there's no place on earth that has patriotism like America. How can we help you between now and July 4th of next year?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best things that all of your listeners can do, and please share this, is they can get an honor and remember flag and put it up on a flagpole. It could be their home, their business, their church, in their community. They could go to a flagpole that may be prominent in their area and just share this vision. Because what I think ultimately we need is to send a message to these families whose loved ones have made this ultimate sacrifice, that we haven't forgotten them. And how better than to send a message visually in a way that you may not even know them, right? They may come by your businesses. But also through legislation, if there's any state adoption states that we have not had, and your listeners could help us to get the other 28 states that we need, 32 states that we need, that would be amazing. And
work on it.
All of those.
Go to honorandremember.org. That is the website, honorandremember.org. Order the flag. Check them out, support them so they can get this mission done over the next year or so. Get a copy of his book, Tragedy to Tribute. There's a picture of the cover on the screen. George, you're fascinating. You're inspiring. Let's stay connected, friend. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Perry, for the opportunity. God bless you.
You too.
The threat of wildfire poses a growing risk to Oregonians. You can prepare now by taking 3 important steps. Create a home inventory, make copies of important financial records, and contact your insurance company to make sure you have the right amounts and types of home insurance coverage. Be wildfire ready by being insurance ready. Visit dfr.oregon.gov/prepare now to learn how.
30 seconds or less, the length of a typical soundbite. You can't really learn much. It takes time to ask questions and understand. Focus Today does just that. We give you an hour so you can understand better. Focus Today on the Dove TV. Answers with Bayless Conley on the Dove TV.
The root of sin was so deep, and the distance between God and man was so great that nothing short of the blood of God's own Son could remedy the situation.
Pastor and author Bayless Conley is known for his clear presentation of the gospel and the way he applies it to life's changing truths.
We were the sheep that went astray, but he was the lamb that was slaughtered. He suffered for us in our place.
He shares answers he's found years ago when trying to find fulfillment in his own life. After chasing everything imaginable, he discovered true lasting hope exists only in a relationship with Jesus.
I'm going to share a secret with you that if you'll listen and if you'll apply it, it will change your life.
Get answers to life's biggest questions with Bayless Conley, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday on the Dove TV.
Welcome back, and what an honor to have with us today Dennis Neely. He is the author of Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. He's an award-winning journalist, media strategist, and advisor to senior executives, and the host of What's Bugging Me podcast. He also has anchored on CNBC and at Fox Business Network after serving as a senior editor at Wall Street Journal and managing editor at Forbes. There's a picture of the cover of his book there on the screen, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk by Dennis Neely. You may want to check that out. Dennis, thank you for your time. Thanks for waiting. How are you?
It's great to see you, Perry. Happy Tuesday to you.
Yeah, same to you, buddy. Where do I start with you? So much to talk about, so little time. What do you think about the recent filings over there at the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Right. So that, the other side's creating this as, is a new constitutional crisis. And oh my gosh, it's going to undermine the validity of government data. And Trump's firing her in favor of someone who will just do whatever Trump wants, blah, blah, blah. But, the thing is, in the real world, in the private sector where Donald Trump made his career, you fire someone who does a bad job. And now it feels like, Perry, the apprentice is back and you're fired. It's becoming possible because of, I think, Supreme Court rulings recently, right, since Trump took over, giving the president more power to go ahead and reach down and make firings like that. And the thing is, this Bureau of Labor Statistics would still uses old-fashioned 1960s style telephone interviews to try to get responses. And it used to have 90% participation, and now it's down to 60% or worse. This Bureau got it wrong in the election year 2024, something like 9 out of 11 months, and always to the upside in favor of Biden. In a 12-month period ending March 2024, the Bureau of Labor Statistics had to say that something like, I think it's 818,000 jobs that we thought had been created in those 12 months actually weren't. We were wrong, and they had to revise downward. And so they keep being wrong and wrong and wrong. And then you look at one more thing, Perry. The BLS, that Stats Bureau, is inside the Department of Labor. In the Department of Labor, 91% of political donations by staff go to Democrats. And I think that we have a broader problem across government with skewed government data and data that really we shouldn't necessarily trust, and we should take a much harder look at.
Amazing. So this is clearly a termination on accountability and performance and accuracy, more so than just silencing a dissent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. In fact, if you look, I think I saw a stat on X, because X platform is an amazing platform for us to get unfiltered real news from all sides. It's just incredible. And someone from Congress maybe said, look, the Bureau got it wrong something like 43 out of 48 months of the Biden administration, and always wrong to the upside. Gee, how's that happen exactly?
Yeah.
And look at data. Look at the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. It's another example where political skew is affecting data. The stock market reacts to ups and downs in that consumer sentiment survey. But then you look, and it turns out that among Democrats who respond to the survey, they think inflation is going to be 6% a year. Well, it's nothing like that. And among Republicans in that same survey, they say that inflation is going to be rising at only 0.6% a year. Neither figure is even realistic. People are gaming the system, and they're giving bigger answers than they really feel, I think, and it's affecting data everywhere, this political split.
So, Dennis, can we trust the BLS, and do we need it?
Do we need it? There's got to be a better way of tracking data. Automated data processing handles weekly paychecks for a huge number of companies. Adobe is able to actually track every single handheld device and what it's doing in terms of viewing. There's got to be technologically a far better way of getting jobs data. And, on one hand, no, we shouldn't trust it. On the other hand, when the entire stock market and all the investors are acting on the data that are there, well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They're trading on it for an individual to say, well, I'm just not going to trust it and trade against that, you could get clobbered, But I think that we certainly should be a lot more circumspect or even suspicious, right? Because one more thing, Perry, sorry for the filibuster answer here, the Federal Reserve, where it is so clear that Jerome Powell, refuses to cut interest rates because you, President Trump, are trying to tell me to. At the Federal Reserve, 92% of staff political donations go to Democrats. How does that not show up in the way they are treating this president? In his first term, after going 8 years of no interest rate cuts, and only in the last year of Obama, the Fed put in like 2 tepid little cuts. Then in comes Trump term 1, 9 rate increases by the Fed.
Yeah.
With no signs of inflation. And so I think that they are against Trump. I think they wanted him to fail. And I think that affected their decision making.
Well, to that end, we really don't need the feds.
No, we really don't, do we?
No.
In fact, someone just told me, I didn't know this. I should have.
Yeah.
But the last time the Fed cut rates, the long rates on the 30-year Treasury bond went up rather than down. So, maybe we should just let the market do it. But, if we do that, the federal government might be in danger of going bankrupt because the Fed keeps the government afloat.
All right, let me swing your attention, because I only got you for one segment today. I want to get you back, but I want to swing your attention over to the Russiagate issue. Has this significantly changed now that it's going to go to a grand jury?
Well, that does change some big things, doesn't it? Because the mainstream press, especially the four horsemen, kind of, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, and MSNBC, they've been burying the story of what a hoax the whole thing was. They've been burying the fact that the Hillary Clinton campaign originated the idea of falsely linking Trump to Russia collusion as a way to divert attention from her at-home email server, deleting 30,000 emails scandal that was hurting her campaign. That's where it all began. And then Obama picks it up and runs with it. And the New York Times has barely done anything on this. And then all of television follows what the New York Times, the ski tracks that the New York Times sets. They're doing their best to ignore it or say that it's retaliation. And it's because they themselves, the Times and the Post, look too bad. How did you guys, two of the best newspapers in the world who won Pulitzer Prizes for investigating Russiagate, how did you guys miss entirely that this was a setup from the start? And maybe it's because your reporters knew it, and maybe they were co-conspirators and taking part in it. Or were they just so incredibly blind because Trump's a bad man and I want to help Biden? Either way, a pox on both of your houses there, Post and Times. Give back your Pulitzers.
Okay, so to my point on that one, Dennis, is that they could do their investigation. They have done some stuff, and they've released a lot of information that verifies the problem. But sending it to a grand jury, that's a game changer, because out of that, there is the possibility of indictments, right?
Yeah, and remember that old saying, right? That a good prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich, was it, several decades ago? And so the question is going to be, how aggressive is the federal prosecutor in this case? How serious is the Justice Department? And man, I got to think they're pretty serious here. And it is astounding to think that some of these demagogues, some of these big fat liars who have been getting contracts to go on television, on cable news, and perpetuate the same lie over and over again, that they finally might have to face the music, bring them in, force testimony, file charges against some of these people. Brennan, Clapper, Comey. I mean, my gosh, that would be an amazing thing to see. And somehow, Perry, I kind of really doubt whether we're ever going to see it. What do you say?
Well, I've talked to a lot of people on this issue. Most say probably no indictments. And then all of a sudden the grand jury is announced, and my brain goes another direction, because for the sake of the integrity of law and the consequences of breaking it, and knowing that the law was broken, somebody's got to go down on this one.
They have to, or the law means nothing.
Right.
And when we look, here's the great thing. With the old cable networks, the news networks, all the news outlets, you're seeing this kind of filtered diet of only what they want you to see. But now on the X platform, you see video from all of these people lying through their teeth on television again and again. And we now know, because we now see those same names on memos where they're clearly agreeing to take part in this conspiracy. Somebody has to pay, or nobody will pay.
All right. A couple other quick questions back to our industry. As you know, the president now is going to sue the Wall Street Journal in particular. He wants to see Murdoch be deposed quickly. And then the New York Times posts a bad picture, a phony picture of a starving baby there in Gaza. Both turned out to be false. Why would these two organizations, with the reputation they have, do something so blatantly wrong?
You know, is it just more Trump derangement syndrome? Is it that they're just so far gone? You know, the Wall Street Journal, I worked there 16 years. I love that paper. I read it every day. It continues to be one of the best papers in the world. And yet it's so clear on the news pages and the op-ed pages both that they detest Donald Trump because he's uncouth. He's unschooled in Washington ways. And, you know, the Wall Street Journal top editors have been inside that power structure for decades. And so Trump is the outsider. And it filters over, and even more so in the Times. You know, I used to respect the New York Times. I don't recognize it today. It is such a liberal lapdog instead of a watchdog. And I guess they've decided that that's what the market will support. I guess they're doing it because they are profit-making enterprises. So they must be doing this in part because they think it pays off. But shame on all these mass media outlets that have gotten so blinded and brainwashed by going against Trump in every single way. And the Democrat Party, where I've been a registered member for my entire life, the Democrat Party has just lost it. You see this Senator Warren coming out in the New York Post headline where a Native American meets an African American because Mom Donnie, the likely next New York City mayor, lied on an application somewhere and said he was black. A great sign, by the way, that we do not live in a racist country, that we are an unracist country. If this guy wants to lie and say he's black, and meanwhile she lied and said she was Native American, and then they met up together, because now Warren is saying this is the future of the Democrat Party. This socialist, I mean, stuff going on every day is just more and more amazing, is it not?
Yeah, put your brain on tilt. One other quick question. So what's your take? Is Elon Musk and President Trump, are they still going to be friends?
You know, they haven't been in touch in a while, right? Because if they were, it would leak and we'd know about it immediately. And yet the other day I see this little sign. The U.S. came out and sanctioned that evil judge in Brazil, I think it was, this kind of a Harry Potter-like villain figure who gone after Elon Musk and X, who tried to shut down the platform, sanction them, etc. So the U.S. government was taking action against this judge. And I thought, you know, you could have just let it lie. But now you're taking action against a judge who's personally gone after Elon Musk and threatened to put the guy in jail. That's an interesting move. Maybe something underneath, there's an olive branch going on.
Yeah.
Maybe the split was in part theater, because Elon needed to separate himself from Trump to help his stock price.
Yeah. Wasn't that just kind of like, with all due respect, kind of like a ego battling of the billionaires?
Yeah. One problem being one billionaire is worth maybe $4 or $5 billion, and the other billionaire is worth $300 billion. Yeah, but it was a battle of billionaires. And, you know, Trump has a lot of respect for Elon, for that wealth that Elon built. And I think that Elon might have overestimated his own personal popularity and might have underestimated the power of this president in this fallout. But I pray they'll get back together. They need each other, and America needs both of them.
To your book, in some ways, business-wise, he is a genius, isn't he?
He is incredible. And I offer 11 lessons of Elon that we could borrow to build a better career and a bigger life for ourselves. He dreams huge He's willing to spend decades pursuing it. He feels like it's better to launch and burn than never to launch at all. So he welcomes failure as a necessary step on the way to success, whereas most of us, try to avoid it and we're afraid of it. He bets on himself and doubles down. All of these things we could learn from. He teases his rivals and tortures his enemies. And I think a lot of us could learn to fight back harder, because too many of us stood silent when America was going the wrong way. And we just sat there and let it happen during COVID instead of standing up and making ourselves heard. That's another lesson. This guy speaks out. He is a great American in part, right? Because he's an adopted American. He has the zeal.
Well, his work with Doge is just amazing. You kind of wanted him to continue.
Well, and there's a compounding effect, because I recently saw that their estimate of 175 is up to like 190 something billion in annual savings that accrues, and it will continue year after year. But now that they're in place and some of those tech systems are in place, they're able to ferret out more waste and fraud and unused contracts that just keep recurring year after year. And I think we ought to be happy for that. And I can't believe that Democrats were protesting against this. Gosh.
Yeah. It's an old saying, one of the truisms I have: the affluent never have to accept the word no.
Yes. Okay. I guess they don't.
They can make it happen. Dennis, you're fascinating. I wish I had more time. We're going to get you back. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, get this book. There's apparently 11 lessons for you in there. The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. Available online, Dennis?
Available at Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. And please put up a nice review on Amazon. Some of the Elon haters are giving me 1 star. It's very charitable of them.
Okay.
And but I'm real proud of the book. And I'm dying for Elon himself to read it and vet it, because I think he'd be surprised at the lessons. He doesn't know them. He's too far inside his own circle. Thanks so much, Perry.
Yeah, you know what I'll do is I'll get Elon on, put you on, let you guys have at it on this program.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey,
get him, man.
Good to see you, friend. Thanks for your time.
Take care, man. Have a great week.
You too.
Since 1983, over 21,000 interviews. It's quite a feat by one person. The Dove's Perry Atkinson. Tap into his experience and knowledge right here, only on the Dove TV.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Clean water is essential to your good health. Ultra Pure Purified Water has been delivering purified, healthy drinking water to the Rogue Valley since 1995. Locally owned and family run, Ultra Pure Purified Water uses a multi-stage process ensuring your delivery of water is 99.8% pure, so your family stays hydrated and healthy. Online at ultrapurewaterinc.com or call 541-734-0828. 541-734-0828.
God's eternal power and divine nature are seen in creation. But in a world blinded by darkness, the life outdoors is here to pull back the veil. The mountains don't lie. Truth leads to Jesus. Wake the wild within.
Okay, welcome back. And can you say President Sabrin? Has a ring to it. Well, I'm delighted to have back with us Professor Murray Sabrin. He's Emeritus Professor of Finance at Ramapo College in New Jersey. He's Associate Scholar at Mises Institute, and he's the author of several books, and one including his autobiography entitled From Immigrant to Public Intellectual. An American Story. There's a picture of the cover of the book. It really is a fascinating story. He does have a website, Murray Sabrin, SABRIN.substack.com. President Sabrin. Got a ring to it. Professor, good to see you as always. How are you, friend?
Great to be with you, Perry. And it's a very apropos time that we're talking about this, because tomorrow is the 76th anniversary of my coming to America with my parents and older brother.
Really? Congratulations. 76 years ago.
Yes, I was a little tired, as they say.
Well, you don't look a day over 49. So
I've been told.
Are you seriously looking in creating an exploratory committee?
Well, I'm discussing this with several people, and the reason is pretty simple. More than half of the American people don't think we're on the right track as a country. And the reason we're not on the right track is what I've been writing about for the past 50 years. We have a burdensome income tax. We have a Federal Reserve that manipulates the economy, that gives us booms and busts and high unemployment. We have endless wars that the president has rightfully talked about. Unfortunately, nothing is happening on that front that would give us more peace in the world. And so I think if I decide to form an exploratory committee, I could then go around speaking to people throughout America saying, listen, we've tried this for more than 100 years. Income taxes, Federal Reserve manipulation, high regulations, endless wars, dependency on the federal government for people's sustenance, whether it's senior citizens, low-income people, college students. We've become a nation of children, Perry. People are not financially independent. That's why he created this hat. Make Americans financially independent, and they'll be available soon to the general public. And I hope we can get this out to the American people so they embrace the philosophy, I think, or the practicality of being financially independent.
I don't think anybody argues with that, so let's unpack this a little bit. First of all, have you ever talked to Secretary Bessent about your ideas?
Not really. I mean, I'm available. I'm not far from Mar-a-Lago. I think about an hour and a half away. He can call me up. He can go to my Substack, reach me, and we could have a meeting in Mar-a-Lago with the president and saying, listen, the president wants lower interest rates. The only way you can get lower interest rates if people save more money. If the Federal Reserve gives us artificially low interest rates, that's going to create another speculative bubble. And we know how those ended. We know how the one ended in the 1920s with the crash of 1929 and a decade depression. We know how the manipulating low interest rates in the 2000s gave us the housing bubble. And then we got the low interest rates after the housing bubble, and we got another unsustainable boom. So all the things that have happened since the Federal Reserve was created, Perry, has given us a lot of pain and discomfort in the American economy. And here's the point I really want to make to the American people. The U.S. economy, given everything that's thrown at it from taxes and spending and regulation and endless wars and interest rate manipulation, it is incredibly resilient. And the reason it's so incredibly resilient is because the men and women entrepreneurs out there that make things happen are creative and innovative, and therefore they get the goods and services that the American people want. That's, I think, the beauty of America. Plus, and here's another important point, we have this gigantic free trade area called the United States of America. That has been one of the primary reasons that the U.S. economy, that the American people have as high standard of living as they do today.
All right, a lot here. What's your take on Chairman Powell hating Trump so much that he won't play ball with them, and yet two of his committee members voted against him maintaining the interest rates? And I realize long-term the Feds need to go, but the conduct of the current Fed chair seems to be pretty petty.
Well, Trump is touting how great the economy is, despite interest rates being at the level that they are. Short-term interest rates are not the key interest rates for the economy, Perry. Mm-hmm. It's the 10-year Treasury bond. And that is determined by supply and demand in the financial markets. And there's a wonderful little article in today's Wall Street Journal by a former Fed president from Philadelphia who pointed this out. The Fed does not control long-term interest rates. And that's determined by inflationary expectations and the real rate. The real rate historically is about 2%. Inflation is around 3%. So we have nearly a 5% 10-year Treasury note. And that is consistent with sound financial analysis. Short-term rates are what the Fed does in order to stimulate the economy, which always ends in a recession.
Yeah.
So we don't need the Fed to pump money in to get the rates down. We just need people to save more, and that will bring interest rates down.
A big question, and I'm not trying to be, superficial here, but is it possible to eliminate the Feds?
Oh, sure. We didn't have a Fed until 1913. We had attempts at central banking with the first bank in the United States, the second bank in the United States. The economy grew by leaps and bounds from 1800 to 1913 when the Fed was created, despite not having a major central bank for any length of time. What the Fed should be doing is just supervising the banking system. That's basically it, and clearing checks. The Fed doesn't need to do what it's doing now. They have 400 PhD economists. And what are they all doing? Because the economy does not run on economists. The economy runs on entrepreneurship and capital. That's what makes an economy grow, is having enough savings so entrepreneurs can tap the capital markets to invest in things that they need in order to get goods and services to us. This is such a simple proposition, and it's spelled out in a wonderful book that was published the year I was born, 1946, by Henry Hazlitt, Economics in One Lesson. Everyone should read that book. They can read it free online at the Mises Institute website.
Okay. Check that out, Mises Institute. All right. As you well know, the president fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is so interesting. Is this another agency that we need or not?
Well, the reason that we have these mega government agencies is because they want to try to plan the U.S. economy by looking at all the data, inflation, unemployment, trade data. We don't need this data. All we need is free enterprise. That will allow the economy to grow. And these data sets are used by government planners in order to set interest rates, in order to determine what the tax code should be, determine how much spending there should be in the economy. This is a form of central planning. The Soviet Union had all sorts of data collection, and where did it get them? It got them nowhere. We don't need data collection by the government. We need the free enterprise system unfolding before our eyes that would allow businesses to make the goods that we need. And I may sound like a broken record, but the free enterprise system is the greatest invention that human beings have ever made in the history of human civilization.
No, I think there's no argument there. I know where you stand on tariffs. I get it. And I guess what my question is now, the way he is using tariffs to bring business to the United States, making the United States bigger as far as being the number one marketplace, isn't that still good?
The way you get businesses to come back to the United States, and by the way, that's not a responsibility of the federal government. I can't find anything in the Constitution that says the goal of the federal government is to bring businesses back to the United States. The reason businesses went overseas is because their costs were going up, because the Federal Reserve was inflating the supply of money, causing prices to go up of inputs, especially wages. So they went overseas to produce things at a lower cost. My proposal, which I've written about, is if you really want to boost the U.S. Economy, is you get rid of the corporate income tax and make the United States the magnet for businesses around the world. Can you imagine companies in Japan and Europe and other places saying, hey, if we produce in America, we don't have to pay a corporate income tax. We save a boatload of money, and we can not only service the U.S. market, but we can service the rest of the world with lower tax burden products. And that would be a great boon to the U.S. economy. It would create millions and millions of jobs in America.
So I guess the question I have there, Professor, is why hasn't Trump floated that idea? I mean, everybody would agree that the corporate tax is too high. If that was brought down or, like you say, eliminated, and you carry that over into inheritance tax, those two things alone would set this place afire, don't you think?
Look what we had prior to the income tax and the Federal Reserve. We had no income tax except for a brief period during the Civil War. We didn't have any inheritance taxes, no estate taxes. We had huge savings and investment, especially from overseas, and that made the U.S. economy boom post-Civil War. Not only that, we restored the gold standard in 1879, which was suspended by Lincoln during the Civil War. And so those several things happened. Restoration of the gold standard, no income tax, and relatively free trade. The only revenue for the federal government was basically the tariffs, and that was a bone of contention because people felt that it was basically a subsidy to the U.S. manufacturers. And the reason we got the income tax was to lower the tariff in 1913 and 20, but then the tariffs went up in the 1920s in spite of the so-called deal that was going to reduce tariffs. So when you look at it, Perry, it's very simple. Government cannot plan the economy, whether it was in the former Soviet Union, whether it's in Cuba today or North Korea, or in this mixed economy that we have because of the Great Depression and all the alphabet soup agencies that came about with all these expenditures.
So how would the president go about limiting corporate tax? What would be the protocols he'd have to go through to do that?
He would have to go to the Congress and say, or get his allies in the Congress and saying, listen, here's what we need to do to boost the U.S. economy. And what Trump needs to do is address the nation. I don't think he's made an Oval Office address in his presidency, especially since he was elected in last November. And I don't recall him doing one in his first term. I may be wrong. But the point is, he should lay out the case that not having a corporate income tax, which raises $530 billion a year out of a $7 trillion budget, which is a small part of the federal revenue stream, and say, this will be the greatest boon to jobs, because all he talks about is jobs and American businesses. So if he wants to talk about jobs and American businesses, here's the way we make the United States the most attractive country in the world to do business. He has to make that case instead of calling people names, too late Powell and all the other things. He should talk about basic economics and finance, and a business person, he should be able to articulate that very easily.
So given his business acumen, why hasn't he done that? I mean, that seems like to be step one. Why isn't that being done?
I'm perplexed as much as you are. I have no idea because, as I wrote in my Substack recently, some of his policies sound like Bernie Sanders instead of Colonel Sanders, who was a great entrepreneur. I mean, he sounds like Bernie Sanders when he thinks the government has the right and the ability to plan the U.S. economy with tariffs and all these other things. I give him credit for deregulation is one of the most important initiatives of his presidency, because that is basically an indirect tax on American businesses and consumers. So why he thinks that the U.S. Government can plan the U.S. economy through tariffs and bring businesses back to America. Now, some of those things would probably happen anyway, but the best thing he can do is lower the corporate tax rate, and he should get his people in Congress to say, we're going to lower the tax rate for businesses, and we can also do it for individuals as well, because they go hand in hand, and say we need to make Americans financially independent. Too many people are getting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Those are the three big entitlement programs in the country. They're basically welfare programs, and if we could do a whole show on those programs. In fact, the other day was the 60th anniversary of Medicare and Medicaid, and this month is the 90th anniversary of Social Security, and they're both financially underwater. They're not sustainable. So the thing is, we have a financial problem, we have a practical problem, we have a fundamental issue about what is the role of government in a free society. And the problem is no one is willing to have that debate in Washington. It's all about deal making, and that's not going to cut it as far as I'm concerned in terms of creating sustainable prosperity.
All right, let me take a quick break. Check out the professor's website, Murray Sabrin, sabrin.substack.com. Mises Institute, what's that website? Professor?
Mises.org, MISES.org.
MISES.org. And then check out his book, From Immigrant to Public Intellectual, An American Story. There's a picture of the cover of the book. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Applegate River Golf and RV Resort, a pristine 9-hole course alongside the Applegate River. Their clubhouse offers a golf simulator experience. The RV Resort is adjacent to the golf course with convenient pull-through parking. Applegate River Golf and RV Resort. Information at applegaterv.com.
Finding that next great series to binge watch is fun, but your neck, shoulders, and body don't count that as me time. Hi, I'm Tamara Miller, owner of Organic Element Spa, and I invite you to put down the remote, get off the couch, and schedule yourself some real me or we time with your favorite service, like one of our many massages, couples massages, or facials. Your health, safety, and comfort are always top priority with us at Organic Element Spa. We can't wait to see you. Book your appointment today.
30 seconds or less, the length of a typical soundbite. You can't really learn much. It takes time to ask questions and understand. Focus Today does just that. We give you an hour so you can understand better. Focus Today on the Dove TV.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
And are you willing to say yes to the claims of Christ, that he is the Son of God, and that you want him to come into your heart and forgive your sins, and you want to know it? Oh, I know. Many of you have been baptized and confirmed. Most of you perhaps are members of some church, or you're identified with a church, or maybe you go to church 2 or 3 times a year. I don't know whether you do or not, but I'm sure a lot of you do. But you're not sure. You couldn't stand here tonight and say, I know my sins are forgiven. I know I'm going to heaven. God is willing to forgive all your past tonight because of the cross. God is willing to say, I forgive you because he loves you. And God is interested in you as though you were the only person in the whole world. And you can receive him tonight.
Okay, welcome back. Always an honor to have with us. Professor Sabrin's with us today. He's Emeritus Professor of Finance at Ramapo College in New Jersey, and he's Associate Scholar at Mises Institute, which you can go to Mises.org, and the author of several books, but his autobiography is a fascinating read, From Immigrant to Public Intellectual, an American Story. And he has a website, murraysabrin.substack.com. And he is seriously considering forming a 2028 Presidential Exploratory Committee. And I think in our previous conversation, you can understand why and where he's coming from and all this. You make an interesting suggestion here, Professor, and that is instead of giving money to your campaign, give it to nonprofit organizations. Yahoo!
Well, here's the point, Perry. As you know, I was born in West Germany right after World War II under American occupation. So the United States government administered the part of Germany where I was born. So therefore, we're investigating, do I have birthright citizenship because I was born under the American flag? And so that's being investigated. And if that passes muster, then I would be able to run for president and serve. Even if the courts rule that I'm not eligible to serve as president, I can still run because there are people have been running for president without being naturalized citizens. But the point I would make about this, Perry, this is the key point. If we're going to apply the Constitution to presidential eligibility, shouldn't we apply the Constitution to what the federal government can spend money on? And Article 1, Section 8 spells what the government can spend money on, and about 90% of the federal spending is not authorized by Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. Therefore, we should apply the Constitution for everything that goes on in America.
Gosh, I hope you're out there. I really do, because I think you reset the argument. You reset the debate and the narrative. So I hope. Let us know how you make out on that. When do you think you'll know about your?
Well, I spoke to an attorney today, and he's going to do some investigating for me. It should be fairly easy to find out if the Supreme Court ever ruled on this. I don't think they have, and so we'll get some clarity very shortly. But the point is, I look at what I'm doing as sort of the culmination of my journey in America, starting in 1949. And my book really explains that, of why I believe what I do. And that's because of my learning and my personal experience with my parents. The only ones survived World War II in their native Poland. And that's how I'm committed to the notion of having a peaceful foreign policy and ending these endless wars that Trump talks about. But I think I can deliver on that, given my personal background and my commitment to peaceful relations with all the nations of the world.
All right, let me just kind of bounce a couple foreign policies off of you, because you've made the interesting proposal that Palestinians should become full Israeli citizens. Explain that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty natural since they are in the geographic area of Israel, even though they live in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So I think if Israel wants to have peaceful relations with the Palestinians, incorporate the Palestinians in Israel, because Israel considers itself the major democracy in the region, and therefore have a pluralistic society where everyone has equal rights and people can enjoy the benefits of living in Israel with a flourishing Israel economy. And I think that would eliminate a lot of the problems that we're now seeing in Gaza and the West Bank.
You would have to assume then that the Palestinians are clear from their ties to Hamas in order to make that work.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, this is the sticky point here. I think the reason that the Hamas was created, by the way, Israel helped create Hamas from what I've been reading over the years. People need to get together, just like in the United States today. We have a multitude of cultures, multitude of value systems all across the country, and people are living in relative harmony in the United States. And that's the tricky part. It's very difficult to create a country of different ethnic and racial demographics. It's probably the most difficult thing in the human experience. That's why Yugoslavia was a failed nation. You have 6 countries that evolved from Yugoslavia. Even Czechoslovakia is 2 separate nations: the Czech Republic and Slovakia. So again, it's clear that having people from different backgrounds under one government umbrella is probably the most challenging thing that human beings can accomplish.
In the meantime, we have our problems back home, and socialism still seems to have a stronghold in a lot of areas, and it's actually being embraced, especially with the candidate for mayor in New York, and then Senator Warren coming out and saying this is the future for us. I mean, that's just raw socialism. What do you think of that?
Well, I would be happy to take Mamdani to Cuba, where I visited many years ago, and I saw exactly what the Cuban economy was under socialism. And they're reforming slowly but surely. They're getting rid of a lot of socialism. There's some free enterprise creeping into the Cuban economy. But I can tell you from going to government stores, which are barely which are basically empty of goods that people want, the Cuban economy should be flourishing because of the natural ties to the United States. And the United States has isolated itself from Cuba. And so Mamdani should go to Cuba on a fact-finding mission. I'd be happy to take him there. We fly out of Miami, go to Havana, and do a tour of the country, and you'll see how poor the country is. One thing I noticed in Cuba that is just a highlight of third world countries, especially socialist-leaning countries, is the poor conditions of the roads. I mean, the roads are incredibly in poor shape. So if you can't do the roads, if the government can't do roads properly, how can they do the other things like healthcare and food supply and all the other things that we, the people, want in order to have a decent living standard?
I got about a minute left, but to that point, don't we see this unwinding, the same thing you just mentioned, don't we see this unwinding in China, Russia, Iran?
Yeah, I mean, China in 1976, when Mao died, was really a backward country. And then Deng Xiaoping said in 1979, we're going to free up the economy. And look what's happened in China for the last 40 some odd years. It's blossomed. Now, they're not perfect by any means. They're not a free enterprise paradise. But at least they have markets, which allows price discovery and capital formation. But the government is too heavily involved in China also. That's why they have these ups and downs, these ghost cities where they build these high rises and nobody lives in them. So there's a lot of waste and inefficiency in the government trying to plan the economy. That's why the Communist Party should disappear from China and have a pluralistic society and get rid of the controls that they have right now.
Do you think we'll see them crumble? Because their economy is in shambles right now.
There's no question about it. They have to make a decision. Do they want to do the same thing over and over again? And we know what the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
Or do they want to say, we're going to allow the Chinese people to have the freedoms that every human being is entitled to, no matter where they live on this planet.
Professor, always great to see you. MurraySabrin.substack.com. That's one place you can connect with them. Check out Mises.org, which is Mises Institute, and certainly get a copy of his autobiography, From Immigrant to Public Intellectual, and American Stories. Always great to talk to you, and can't wait for the big announcement.
Thanks, Barry. Looking forward to seeing you again very shortly.
Okay, take care, buddy.
Yeah.
Jet